Chapter 1245. Since it was not inherited from Situmuyang, then it was highly possible that it was because of Situmuyang's mother. Many elders in Xinjiang Gate did not know what kind of wife Sita Luyun had married over 10 years ago. Although there were a few people who vaguely knew that the woman had a powerful background, but as for her real background, perhaps only the most respected people in Xinjiang Gate knew. Swish, swish, numerous figures flashed across the sky as fast as lightning. Chi-chi, as Situmuyang chased after them, the icy winged wolves were killed by him one by one, and all of them were smashed into the mountain below. Not long after, other than the huge alpha wolf, the rest of the icy winged wolves were all killed. You won't be able to escape. These words came out from Situmuyang's mouth. Yuan Qi surged out from his body and filled the air around him. In a split second, it formed a black shadow of a mountain peak. This mountain peak shadow was strangely majestic. It was dozens of feet tall, and it was shot out by him with a wave of his hand. Rumble, the illusory mountain moved in the air and suppressed the wolf with an unstoppable force. Awu, the alpha wolf roared. Waves of biting cold air surged and froze the space. It used all its strength to resist the attack. However, the mountain peak shadow emitted an extremely heavy aura as it crazily crushed down. Ka-ka, the solid ice cracked and exploded, breaking apart inch by inch. Finally, the mountain peak shadow smashed down with a boom and slammed the wolf onto a hill below. A huge crater appeared on the ground. The mountain rocks turned into fine powder, and broken wood flew everywhere. A pool of blood mixed in the dust. The wolf's flesh exploded, and it could not be more dead. It's a pity that it's not a demon void realm. It doesn't even have a demon core. Situmuyang landed and glanced at the battlefield. His face was filled with regret. Under the circulation of his Yuan Qi, the frost on his body also melted and evaporated into mist. He did not stay here for long. After a moment, he plunged into the forest without flying. This was the barbaric demon forest. Everything had to be done in a low-key manner. This was what Situmuyang had concluded. With his cultivation, it would not be too difficult for him to cross this place and reach the Chaos Realm. However, if he swaggered through the streets, he would definitely die easily. Everyone knew that the barbarian demon forest was barren and lacked everything except for barbarian demon beasts. Especially in this place, there were many powerful savage beasts. Situmuyang had outstanding talent, but if he encountered a powerful monster void realm or even a monster emperor realm, he would only die. Chaos Realm, Junior Marshal Uncle, I'm here. Muttering softly, Situmuyang continued on his journey towards the barbaric demon forest. After passing through there, they would arrive at the Chaos region. The barbaric demon forest was also where the greatest danger lay. The most prosperous place in the central state was the sacred mountain. The spirit energy here was dense, and between the layers of mountains, clusters of mist coiled around like mist. The mountain peaks were verdant and dark green, jade flowers bloomed, and spirit butterflies fluttered about, causing it to seem like a paradise on earth. On a towering mountain peak, a young man with long hair that flowed down like a waterfall walked out from an expanse of hazy mist, and then he stood silently in the sky with one hand behind his back. When one looked over, one could see his slender figure, handsome appearance, an appearance that was like jade. The young man looked to be less than 30 years old, yet his entire body contained a unique bearing, and he was like a son of the heavens that emanated charm and had an ethereal bearing. Holy Son, you've left your closed-door cultivation. Not long after the young man walked out, an old man's figure flashed over quickly to stand behind the young man and speak respectfully. Yes. The young man replied indifferently and didn't say anything further. Holy Son, you've broken through to the 9th level of the Origin Void stage. After a short moment, the old man's figure shook as he raised his head to look at the young man before him, and his face went ghastly pale and was filled with astonishment. Yes, I've been in closed-door cultivation for over a year and have just broken through to the 9th level of the Origin Void stage. The young man's expression remained unchanged when he heard this, and he only nodded lightly. That's great. Congratulations, Holy Son, you're not far from the Origin Monarch stage. The old man turned from shock to excitement, and he bowed once more as he spoke with a trembling voice. However, the young man only smiled and said, Elder Mo, I wonder if any major events have occurred in the Holy Mountain during this past year? Tell me about it. The young man still had a carefree appearance as he descended from midair to stand before the old man. Major events. When this was mentioned, the old man called Elder Mo's expression focused, and he hesitated for a moment before laughing bitterly and saying, A major event has indeed occurred, and it's a major event that shook the 6 continents, 3 continents and 1 ocean. The young man's interest was instantly aroused, and he asked in a light voice, Elder Mo, don't keep me in suspense, tell me roughly. Elder Mo organized his thoughts for a moment, and then he said slowly, I have to start from the St. Martial Conference last year. At that time, the Holy Sun was in closed-door cultivation, and the 9th Holy Sun represented the Holy Mountain to participate in the St. Martial Conference. However, he encountered a young man and returned in defeat. Naren Ryu? Returned in defeat. The young man was obviously startled, as if he suspected that he had heard wrongly. He asked curiously, The age limit of the St. Martial Conference is 25 years old and below. Although Naren Ryu is not yet 20 years old, it's extremely difficult to find someone in the central continent who can match him. Moreover, Elder Mo just said that the person who defeated him was a young man? That's right. This young man is called Su-yi, and he represents the Bawang sect. However, this Bawang sect is just a fabrication. He was originally a disciple of the Shunjian Gate. In fact, Su-yi should have been a disciple of the Holy Mountain. Elder Mo swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said so. For some reason, when he mentioned Su-yi's name, there was endless shock in his heart, and he could not calm down. Should have been a disciple of the Holy Mountain? This makes me more and more curious. Elder Mo, please continue. This time, the young man was even more interested, and he indicated for the old man to continue. That Su-yi can be said to be a genius, and he defeated the 9th Holy Sun. Elder Mo organized his thoughts, and then told everything about Su-yi to the young man in front of him. From the fierce battle at the beginning of the St. Martial Conference, to the terrifying battle in the St. Martial Secret World, to the experts of the Holy Mountain making a move, and then Su-yi, Merciless West, Su-chun, Yen-lin, and Little Marshal Su becoming sworn brothers under the siege of the Holy Mountain, and finally broke through the sky and escaped. There were also various news from the Chaos Realm that the young man had really established a Bawang sect, and at the same time, made a name for himself in the Alliance Conference. Elder Mo didn't leave out any details as he roughly recounted everything to the young man, to the point that the young man's mouth felt dry. The more he talked about these past events, the more amazed the old man's face was. Chapter 1246. According to the news from the Chaos region, after the Alliance Conference, a second-rate force called the Heavenly Dipper sect made a move to kill Su-yi. However, they did not expect that the Bawang sect would actually set up a powerful illusory spirit world and trap and kill more than 10 Heavenly Dipper sects Origin Emperor Realm experts. Even the half-step Origin Ancestor Realm sect master was seriously injured and returned in defeat. The person who set up this illusory spirit world was Su-yi's sworn elder brother, Merciless West. After that, the Bawang sect rose even faster and caused a huge commotion in the Chaos region. They destroyed several third-rate sects in a row and truly became a powerful force. Not long ago, the Bawang sect suddenly made a move and destroyed a third-rate force called the Green Sanctuary sect. Behind the Green Sanctuary sect was a second-rate force called the Jade Tripod sect. What was unexpected was that Su-yi led his men to secretly set up another illusory spirit world near the Jade Tripod sect. He used some unknown method to lure the Jade Tripod sect's Origin Emperor realm experts in and killed them one by one. He killed dozens of Origin Emperor realm experts in a row. After that, the two Origin Ancestor realm experts of the Jade Tripod sect made a move and vowed to destroy the Bawang sect. However, when they went, they encountered the Bawang sect's strong resistance. First, they used the illusory spirit world to trap and injure the two of them. Then, Su-yi took out hundreds of powerful soul-controlling killing talismans and seriously injured the two Origin Ancestor realm experts. Originally, the Bawang sect would not be able to escape the fate of destruction. After all, they were all seriously injured. However, who would have thought that the little bird beside Su-yi would erupt with the power of a phoenix and kill a Origin Ancestor realm expert? Su-yi himself used a strange method to devour the energy of the Origin stones in the mine, and his strength instantly soared. Then, he used an unimaginable martial technique to kill another seriously injured Origin Ancestor realm expert. After that, the Blood Sun sect and the Nine-Star Valley of the three first-rate forces made a move one after another, wanting to take Su-yi away. However, under the protection of the Blue Cloud Hall, the plans of these two sects fell through. In this way, the Bawang sect had truly survived the crisis. However, that second-rate force, the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect, was destroyed just like that. All its territory and wealth were swept away by someone. Elder Hiroshi said a lot in one breath. His old face was full of horror. Not only him, but the young man was also in a daze for a long time after hearing this. That young man, Su-yi, was really too terrifying. Although many of them were just rumors, with the Holy Mountain's information channels, all of them were absolutely credible. That Su-yi is at the 6th level of the Origin Void stage? A 6th-level Origin Void stage martial artist below the age of 18, truly sensational, the young man muttered. His handsome face was filled with disbelief. He couldn't help but think of himself. What was his cultivation level when he was 18? The young man clearly remembered that he was still in the Yuan Zhen stage at that time. He was still a long way from the Yuan Su stage. Besides that, not only was Su-yi's natural talent terrifying, what was even more shocking was that he actually established his own sect and was able to gain a firm foothold in the Chaos region. How could such ability be something that an ordinary person could accomplish? The 9th Holy Sun was injured in that battle. After he recovered, he went into closed-door cultivation for a long time. He came out of closed-door cultivation a few days ago and stepped into the Origin Void stage as well. Suddenly, Elder Hiroshi said this out of the blue. Oh. But the young man obviously didn't care about this anymore. What he wanted more in his heart was still Su-yi. Looks like I've made too many mistakes during this 1 year of closed-door cultivation. The young man sighed, but his eyes erupted with a bright brilliance. No one knew exactly what he was thinking in his heart. Right, Elder Hiroshi, you said earlier that Su-yi should have been a disciple of my holy mountain, yet why did he become a member of the Xinjiang Gate? Moreover, he even formed such a great enmity with my holy mountain? Suddenly, the young man thought of this and couldn't help but ask. All of this is because of Wang Chuanda's selfishness. Elder Hiroshi gritted his teeth and told the young man about Wang Chuanda's scheme to harm Su-yi. If it wasn't for that person who was hostile, such an outstanding talent would have definitely been a member of the Holy Mountain, and everything wouldn't have come to this point today. The young man listened without saying a word. After a long time, he said, I'm going to see Master. It seems that I'll have to make a trip to the Chaos region. The Holy Mountain will always be the Holy Mountain. A mere Su-yi can't offend the dignity of the Holy Mountain. As he spoke, the young man took a step forward and covered a distance of several hundred feet. After a few steps, he disappeared from Elder Hiroshi's sight. Holy Sun, Elder Hiroshi shouted at the young man's back, but in the end, he didn't say anything and only sighed. The holy mountain had a holy sun position, but it wasn't just one. There were 9 of them. Naren Ryu was the youngest among the 9. Even though she had broken through to the origin void stage, her cultivation was still the weakest. Therefore, she was the 9th holy sun. However, in the outside world, the holy suns were not ranked. This ranking was only used within the holy mountain. Only after these 9 holy suns had all grown up would they then select the strongest one to inherit the holy sun's legacy. The young man just now was ranked 5th, the 5th holy sun. His name was Xiahong House. Was it right or wrong to tell him these things? Elder Hiroshi smiled bitterly for a long time after Xiahong House disappeared. However, he didn't think too much about it. He also rushed in the direction the young man left and soon disappeared. On this day, Xiahong House left the holy mountain and headed to the chaos region. Only a few people knew about this news. Even many of the holy mountain's higher-ups were unaware. Elder Hiroshi, who had been following the 5th holy sun, was also asked to keep it a secret and not leak the news. He had to pretend that the 5th holy sun hadn't come out of seclusion. The chaos region is a place of trouble. Send 2 people to follow him secretly. However, remember not to make a move unless it's absolutely necessary to avoid exposing your whereabouts. If it's an emergency, bring the holy sun back directly. Do not delay, a powerhouse instructed. The chaos region was a forbidden area of the one mountain, 2 religions, 3 sects, and 4 factions. No one from the top 10 forces dared to casually step into it. The situation there was complicated and filled with endless killing. However, once someone from the top 10 forces of the continent appeared, they would definitely die without leaving behind even their bones. If the people there knew that a holy sun from the holy mountain had entered the chaos region, the outcome would be obvious. In addition, traces of a new mystic realm have appeared in the northwest of the chaos region. If the situation permits, you can go there and investigate. The holy sun is not far from the origin emperor realm. If he has the chance to enter the mystic realm, he might be able to finally break through. This is an opportunity, but also a challenge. Remember, you must protect him well. The powerhouse who gave the order instructed again. Then 2 powerful existences walked out of the holy mountain and hid in the dark, following Xiahong House. This situation was tightly covered up by the holy mountain. Very few people knew about it. Chapter 1247. Su Yi was saying goodbye to Ji Tianfu, Ji Hanhua Yuanshuan, and the others outside the Xianjian sect. In the end, he did not bring Ji Hanhua with him. After all, Su Yi did not want to go with his real identity on this trip to investigate the arcane realm. Ji Hanhua was the daughter of the Xianjian sect's leader. Many people had seen her at the Alliance conference. Therefore, she might be recognized along the way. However, Feng Qi'er did not have such concerns. Before Su Yi met her, this little girl had been staying in the Feng family village. Later, she went into seclusion for a long time to practice the cultivation method that Merciless West had taught her. It was Feng Qi'er's first time walking out of the Bawang sect and in the Chaos Zone. Therefore, no matter where she went, no one would recognize her. Ji Hanhua's eyes were red. She was reluctant to part with Su Yi. For some reason, Su Yi had similar feelings. After Ji Hanhua recovered, Su Yi always felt that he had a trace of formless concern for this young girl in the unseen world. Let's go. However, in the end, he quickly left with Feng Qi'er and handsome Su. Half a day later, Su Yi used the art of disguise to change his appearance. He turned into a young man in his late 20s. His appearance was dignified and handsome. He also took out a brocade robe and put it on. He looked like a disciple from a big sect and had an extraordinary background. This outfit would save him a lot of trouble under normal circumstances. After all, if he had a big background, many criminals would be wary of him and would not dare to act recklessly in the chaos zone. Not only Sui, but Handsome Su's appearance also changed drastically. The bird's body was dark black and its feathers seemed to be dyed with ink. At the same time, it exuded a metallic texture. For some reason, there were wisps of black gas lingering around it. It made Handsome Su look like some kind of evil bird. It was poles apart from his identity as a divine bird. His eyes were like a dark abyss that could swallow a person's soul. Not bad, not bad. This way, even if someone has seen you before, it would be hard for them to associate you with the divine bird phoenix. Looking at Handsome Su, Sui kept nodding his head in satisfaction. Handsome Su's current appearance was filled with a murderous aura. He looked just like an evil savage beast. I am the dark demonic god. Hand over your lives. Little Handsome Su pretended to be very fierce. Demonic chi rolled around his body, and when he glared at her, he really did look like a ferocious demon. Haha, Feng Qi'er was amused by him. She covered her mouth and giggled. As expected of you. Sui looked at the girl beside him and was very surprised. Although Feng Qi'er's cultivation base had yet to reach the Yuanzhen stage, her means were extraordinary. Handsome Su's current disguise was due to the special characteristics of the Calamity Chi and the Soul Cultivation Orb. She gathered countless evil spirits and resentful spirits and placed them on Handsome Su's body. Sui could not help but be moved. Feng Qi'er's Soul Cultivation Orb was very different from a normal soul controller's means. He wondered what other special abilities she would have when she became really strong in the future. This is not a powerful means, but it can be used to fool people. But Handsome Su can't use his spiritual power. Otherwise, my means won't be able to withstand his attack. Feng Qi'er stuck out her tongue and said with a smile. She was not very strong yet and could only change Handsome Su's temperament. However, this was only on the surface. Once Handsome Su used his ability, it would be broken instantly. Also, this means can only fool ordinary martial artists. If you meet someone of the Yuan Emperor stage, or even stronger, you probably won't be able to escape their detection, Feng Qi'er said again. Enough, enough. As long as you don't ask me to hide, I can endure and not lose my temper. Handsome Su nodded and was very satisfied with his current appearance. Compared to being stuffed into Sui's arms, he would rather endure and not make a move. Okay, let's continue on our way. Sui smiled and continued on his journey. While walking, he suddenly thought of something and could not help but look at Feng Qi'er and said, "Oh right, from now on, let's call each other brother and sister. I'll change my name to Feng Yun." Feng Qi'er nodded and said with a smile, "Okay, brother Feng Yun." Since he had decided to change his identity, he had to do it thoroughly. Now that his appearance had changed, he naturally had to change his name as well. "Boss, what about me? I want to change my name too." Suddenly, Handsome Su shouted, "You little guy, why change your name? You can't respond when I call your name. If you open your mouth, you'll be exposed immediately." Sui glared at Handsome Su and said, if Handsome Su opened his mouth to speak, his cultivation would definitely be exposed. At the very least, others would think that he was a monster illusionary realm existence, which might bring some trouble. Therefore, the best way was to stop Handsome Su from talking so that he wouldn't attract attention and arouse suspicion. "Boss, I hate you." Handsome Su's face was full of grievances. Not only could he not make a move, but he was also not allowed to speak. This was intolerable. "Don't feel bad, Handsome. As long as there are no outsiders around, you can still talk to us." Feng Qi'er quickly comforted him and giggled at the same time. Handsome Su thought about it and felt that it made sense. Immediately, he was no longer distressed. The three of them continued on their journey. They were not in a hurry as they passed through the forest. In the end, Sui fulfilled Handsome Su's wish and gave him an extremely domineering and intimidating new name, Wind Fiend. In order to save strength, Su-yi also tamed a low-level monster spirit realm savage beast. The three of them rode on it at the same time and ran through the forest. Their speed was not fast, but it was not slow either. The Chaos Realm was very large. Its area was not smaller than any of the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. Approximately 30% of the area was occupied by humans, including countless rogue cultivators and forces of all sizes. Most of them were active in this area. In addition, there were also a large number of savage beasts scattered around. They also occupied a large area of the territory. Very few humans set foot in this area. There were also a few places that no one knew what they were like. Anyway, even if someone had been there, it was extremely rare. The route that Su-yi and the other two took was mostly populated by humans. However, it was slightly remote so that they could avoid too much trouble. However, even if they deliberately took a detour, they still encountered many humans along the way. In the past few days, the three of them had seen no less than 3 or 4 fierce battles. In addition, there were also many murderers and robbers. In the end, it all ended with one side being defeated and killed. This is the rule of the Chaos Realm. Without true strength, you can only stay in this environment and can't break free. Chapter 1248. In the Chaos region, everything was out of one's control. Even if one wanted to stay out of harm's way and not be harmed by outsiders, one had to be strong enough. Otherwise, in this place, one would be faced with killing and fighting at all times. Almost all the rogue cultivators lived a life of blood on the edge of the blade, and there were not many good relationships. Su-yi knew that if it were not for his and the Bawang sect's strength, they would not have been able to escape from this rut. If one wanted to establish a foothold in the Chaos region, one had to rely on means and strength. Everything depended on one's fists. Therefore, Su-yi had no intention of interfering with the killings that he saw along the way. This was the rule of the Chaos region, and everyone had to abide by it. Therefore, when he deliberately avoided them, even those people did not notice their presence. There was only one time when a murderer happened to see Su-yi and the others after killing his opponent. He had evil intentions and suddenly attacked them. But what he didn't expect was that this seemingly very young man and woman were actually so terrifyingly powerful. The young man, who seemed to be 23 or 24 years old, lightly slapped him to the ground like a puddle of mud. Then, the young man raised his foot and stomped on the murderer's head. "Are you okay?" Seeing this, Su-yi could not help but ask with concern. Feng Qi-er's face instantly turned pale and did not look good. "I'm fine." Feng Qi-er shook her head. "You have to get used to the rules of survival of a martial artist. The Chaos region is more terrifying than the outside world, but this world is the same no matter where you go. You will eventually face killing and bloodshed. This is unavoidable," Su-yi said. Then, he stepped onto the back of the savage beast and reached out to pull Feng Qi-er up. He did not say much. Feng Qi-er had lived in the Feng family village for many years. She was simple and kind. Before her elder brother, Merciless West, taught her cultivation techniques, she was useless. To her, killing was something she had never seen before. Therefore, when she saw Su-yi kill a rogue cultivator with a calm expression, Feng Qi-er's face turned pale. However, she also understood the logic of Su-yi's words, but it was not so easy to accept. The few of them stopped talking and continued to ride on their barbaric beast. In order to not attract too much attention, Su-yi tamed a barbaric leopard this time. It wasn't a flying beast and could only travel through the forest. "Boss, I want to eat barbecue." Suddenly, Handsome Su said to Su-yi. "Why do you only know how to eat?" Su-yi rolled his eyes and said snappily. Su-yi didn't know what to do with Handsome Su, who was always clamoring for barbecued meat. "How would I know how to eat? I haven't had barbecued meat in months." However, Handsome Su was not happy. He curled his lips and said with dissatisfaction, Sui was speechless, but he couldn't refute. It was true that they hadn't eaten barbecued meat for a long time. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but be tempted. He rode on the barbarian leopard and sped away, purposely heading towards some remote mountain forest. Unfortunately, they didn't see any other barbaric beasts even after traveling for a long distance. No barbaric beasts attacked them. Under such circumstances, handsome Su couldn't help but stare at the barbaric leopard under Su Yi's feet and start drooling. Sensing that someone was looking at it as if it was a delicacy, the barbaric leopard shrunk its neck and started to tremble. "This is the strength of our legs, not for you to eat." Sui knocked on handsome Su's head. This glutton was actually thinking about their mount. Sui wouldn't allow that. In fact, Sui felt a sense of closeness towards the barbaric demon beasts. He would not kill them easily. This feeling was probably due to the influence of the mysterious space. The primordial origin supreme technique that he cultivated also had a demonic, but not evil temperament. Generally, Sui wouldn't kill barbaric beasts that weren't hostile to him and didn't attack him. He wouldn't take their lives just to satisfy his appetite. In fact, he wasn't sure if this was a good thing or not. "I'm so hungry." Handsome Su covered his stomach with his wings. He had been complaining about his hunger ever since he thought about barbecued meat. There's movement." Suddenly, Sui and handsome Su became alert. The two of them could hear the sound of rushing wind coming from the forest. It was obvious that someone was running quickly in the forest. When the barbaric leopard under their feet heard this, it instantly tensed up and stopped in its tracks. A moment later, they saw a figure rush to a place not far away, seemingly in a hurry. The figure didn't seem to notice the existence of the two of them, the bird and the barbaric beast. She directly dove into a pile of bushes and hid. "It's a little girl." Sui looked around and saw the hidden figure. It was a girl. She had a slender figure and wore a water-patterned silk dress. He couldn't see her face clearly, but he guessed that she wasn't very old. After the girl hid, she also retracted her aura. However, she still couldn't escape Sui and handsome Su's senses. "She's probably hiding because she's being chased," handsome Su whispered into Su Yi's ear. Sure enough, after a short while, they heard a group of people shouting as they approached this place. "That little girl, Shueiwe, can't have run far. You must catch her. If sect leader Feng is happy, everyone will be rewarded." "Yes, sect leader. Hurry up and find her. She can't run away. You must find her." The voices came from afar, accompanied by a series of figures moving through the air. Based on the commotion, Sui estimated that there were about 6 people chasing after them. They were all at the origin spirit realm. Only 2 of them were at the Yuan Zhen realm. And JSU didn't care about such trash at all, and he didn't want to get involved in this matter. "Ignore them. Let's continue on our way." Sui spoke and indicated for Man Bao to continue on their way, yet he didn't intentionally avoid them. This sort of scene probably occurred every single day in the Chaos region, and he didn't want to meddle in other people's business. Even if it was a girl that was being chased, Sui didn't intend to pay attention to it. At the same time, he didn't care about those people that were chasing after them. After all, he had the strength to be unafraid of them, and he could count himself lucky if those people didn't offend him. However, the heavens didn't go according to one's wishes. Man Bao was just about to make a move when a rain of arrows pierced through the dense forest and whistled towards him, causing him to shrink back nervously and stop on the spot. Sui couldn't help but frown when he saw this, and then he lightly flicked his sleeve. An expanse of light that wasn't bright swept out and struck down the rain of arrows, causing all of them to be minced into powder. "Boss, looks like we've been targeted." Chapter 1249. Just as little handsome Su finished speaking, 6 figures appeared in the nearby forest. 4 of them held bows in their hands, while the other 2 held swords and sabers. Su-yi observed them for a moment and sensed their cultivations. The 4 people with bows were all at the origin spirit stage, and their ages ranged from 30 to 40 years old. As for the 2 people with sabers and swords, they were both at the origin true stage, and were similarly in their 40s. These 6 people all had the valiant aura of bandits, and their faces were fierce-looking. They were probably experts of Howl's Mountain Woods. It's not Shui Peng, that little girl. It's a kid and a little girl. When they saw Su-yi, they were first stunned, and then spoke for the man with the saber. His brows slightly furrowed as his gaze swept the surroundings, as if he was searching for something. Kid, let me ask you, did you see a little girl pass by here? At this moment, the middle-aged man with the sword stared at Su-yi and asked coldly. I don't know. Su-yi calmly replied. Kid, do you really not know, or are you intentionally hiding it? Hurry up and tell us the truth. Otherwise, we won't be merciful. Hearing Su-yi's words, another origin spirit stage practitioner around the age of 30 spoke out, and used a fierce gaze to stare at Su-yi. The remaining people all stared coldly at the man and woman opposite them. I said I don't know. If you know what's good for you, then don't provoke me. Su-yi couldn't be bothered to pay attention to these people. He called out to Man Bao and said, Let's go. These men weren't experts, so Su-yi didn't even have the interest to make a move against them. However, the ferocious men did not know this. What an arrogant kid, you're simply courting death. It won't be so easy to leave. As these words sounded out, the figures of the 4 origin spirit stage practitioners flashed. With a few flashes, they landed beside Su-yi and split into 4 directions, surrounding the 2 of them, the bird and Man Bao. I'm afraid this kid's background isn't small. Why don't we just let him go? Not far away, the man with the saber frowned again. At this time, Su-yi was wearing a brocade robe and a jade belt. He looked to be about 23 or 24 years old, and had an extraordinary bearing. He looked very much like a disciple of some great power. As a result, the burly man became suspicious and was afraid that he would get into trouble. What are you afraid of? So what if he's a disciple of a big power? He's not in his sect right now. No one can protect him. The burly man with the sword in his hand sneered. Yuan Qi flickered under his feet as he landed in front of Su-yi. The man with the saber thought for a moment and didn't hesitate any longer. A moment later, he followed. In this world, there are always so many people who are willing to throw their lives away. A trace of coldness appeared on Su-yi's face. Even though he didn't want to cause trouble, he was unable to prevent others from taking the initiative to provoke him. Kid, speak quickly. Did you see anyone pass by here? If you really didn't see anyone, then hand over all your spatial pouches and we'll let all of you live. The 4 people with the bow sneered endlessly as they spoke. There are plenty of spatial pouches and quite a few treasures within them. But you can't take them away with just the likes of you, Su-yi said lightly. At the same time, his eyes flickered with a piercingly cold light. In the next instant, his figure drew a perfectly straight line and instantly appeared in front of an origin spirit stage practitioner. Then, he lightly slapped out with his palm. Under the practitioner's astonished gaze, this palm landed on his chest. Bang! A muffled sound was accompanied by a bloody mist as the origin spirit stage practitioner's body directly exploded into nothingness. But all of this was merely the beginning. Su-yi's figure was like a ghost. With an unbelievable speed, he once again appeared beside another person and similarly slapped out with his palm. Bloody mist filled the air. Immediately after, the 3rd and 4th person also died an unnatural death under the same move. Such a scene made the 2 primordial true realm experts dumbstruck. The 2 rubbed their eyes in disbelief, as if they had just experienced an illusion. But the reality before their eyes very quickly shook their hearts fiercely. Fear instantly filled their hearts as the color drained from their faces. For Origin Spirit stage practitioners were killed before they could even react. How could such a method be done by an ordinary person? At the very least, the two Yuan Zhen stage practitioners asked themselves honestly. They absolutely couldn't do it. My lord, we didn't mean to offend you, please forgive us. The man with the saber instantly panicked as he spoke with a trembling voice. As for the man with the sword, his figure suddenly retreated rapidly as he fled into the distance. It's too late to say this now. These words came out of Su Yi's mouth as he pointed his finger forward. A ray of origin chi light shot out like a powerful arrow leaving the bow, piercing through the air. Whoosh! The origin chi light caught up with the fleeing man in an instant and pierced through his heart. His corpse fell limply to the ground. After doing all this, Su Yi turned around and slammed his palm onto the chest of the man with the saber beside him. The man spat out blood as he flew backward. When he landed on the ground, there was no more sound. Boss, quickly see if there's anything good. Su Xiaoshui excitedly flew out and found a space pouch on the body of the man in the distance. He handed it to Su Yi. The space pouch of the man next to him was also found by Su Yi. With Su Yi's current soul strength, the soul strength on these two people's space pouches couldn't stop him at all. Very quickly they were cracked open. A bunch of paupers. After opening the space pouch, Su Yi said with a slightly disappointed expression. There was nothing valuable inside. However, he wasn't surprised. After all, these two people's strength was average. There were only a few origin stones and some low-grade spiritual herbs in the space pouch. With Su Yi's current standards, these things were nothing to him. He threw the spiritual herbs to Su Xiaoshui, who didn't even look at them, let alone eat them. Stop hiding. You've been watching in the dark for so long. Come out. Su Yi turned his gaze and looked at a pile of bushes not far away and said softly. However, as soon as he finished speaking, there was no movement from that place for a long time. Su Yi wasn't in a hurry. He just kept staring at that place. As if feeling his gaze, after a while, a young girl finally walked out slowly with a nervous face. You? Are you an advanced origin chi cultivator? After walking out, she saw Su Yi, Su Xiaoshui, the bird, and the barbaric leopard. Her whole body tensed up and she was very careful. She saw everything just now. At this moment, the young girl felt that Su Yi was more dangerous than those men from before. Advanced origin chi cultivator, Su Yi was stunned. Then, he said indifferently, I guess so. Chapter 1250. Under Su Yi's gaze, Shuiyue's water-patterned silk dress accentuated her slender waist and figure. No, the skirt was a little torn at the moment, and a large part of the collar was torn open, revealing some tender snow-white skin. Moreover, this girl's face was delicate and pretty. Her eyes were like ink, her nose was straight, and her red lips were smooth and glossy. Although she was not extremely beautiful, she was definitely very pleasing to the eye. Thank you. If you didn't help me, I would have been captured by them. Shuiyu looked at Su Yi, completely unaware of her collar. When she thanked Su Yi, she was still extremely cautious, and her delicate body was as straight as a pencil. His right hand, which was as white as snow, was tightly holding onto a long sword. They were courting death. You don't have to thank me. Now that no one is chasing you, you can leave. Su Yi said calmly. He had unintentionally saved this girl. However, he did not have any evil intentions. Even if he wanted to kill her and rob her, she probably did not have anything good on her. He waved his hand and did not want to stay any longer. He signaled Man Hu to continue on their way. However, just as he turned around, the girl behind him suddenly shouted anxiously, Thank you, but you have to be careful. Those people are from the Green Flame Gang. The Green Flame Gang is backed by the Blood Dragon Church. Leave this area quickly. Otherwise, if the Green Flame Gang finds out, they will not let you go. Okay. I got it, Sui responded and waved his hand without looking back. He sensed that the young girl took a few quick breaths before she entered the forest and quickly left. Green Flame Gang, Blood Dragon Church, Sui softly repeated these two names. He did not have any impression of them. They were probably just two insignificant forces in the chaos domain. After all, the forces that could be considered as decent had participated in the Alliance Conference. Therefore, he did not take the Green Flame Gang and Blood Dragon Church seriously. Sui, are we really not going to help her? Feng Qi'er, who was standing on the barbarian leopard's back, looked back from time to time and asked in a low voice. After learning of the existence of the Green Flame Gang and the Blood Dragon Church, she still felt that the girl just now would not be able to truly escape from danger, so she was somewhat worried. You little girl. Sui looked at her helplessly and said, the Chaos region is not a place that pays attention to chivalry. To survive here, one naturally has to face life and death challenges at all times. We can control them for a while, but we can't control them forever. Everything will be up to fate. Besides, we don't know if Shueiwe is really a good person. Upon hearing those words, Feng Qi'er fell into deep thought, but her beautiful brows were slightly furrowed. Sui saw this and did not disturb her, allowing her to think about the reasons behind it. It was true that Feng Qi'er was kind, but this time, Merciless West had asked her to come with her to gain experience. Along the way, Sui felt that he still had to teach her a lot of principles, and these principles were all comprehended by him in the midst of life and death all these years. Feng Qi'er still had to comprehend everything on her own. The appearance of the Green Flame Gang and Shueiwe was only an insignificant interlude to Sui. They continued on their way, not showing off, and Man Bao's speed was not slow either. After an hour, they appeared at a place 100 miles away. Su Xiaoshui had been thinking about roasted meat, so his eyes kept darting around, and he even flapped his wings and made some noise. His goal was to attract some barbaric demons to come to him. However, to his disappointment, there were many traces of human activity in the surroundings, but not a single barbaric demon was seen. We've been on the road for so long, let's rest for a while. It had been almost 4 days since they left Xianjiansek. They had traveled a long distance, with only 2 short breaks in between. With Man Bao's leg strength, even if he did not travel at full speed, he was still very tired. Seeing that the sky was gradually darkening, Sui found a small basin and began to rest. He took out an elixir for barbaric demons from his dimensional bag and gave it to Man Bao to help him recover his strength. After receiving the elixir, Man Bao's respect for Sui increased because the elixir was very beneficial to him. Boss, I'm going to walk around. Before Sui could sit down, Su Xiaoshui flapped his wings and flew away. I'm afraid Su Xiaoshui is going to look for meat again. Feng Qi'er stared blankly at Su Xiaoshui in shock. She could not understand why Su Xiaoshui was so obsessed with roasted meat. Let him be. Where can he find barbaric demons in this area? Sui did not care at all. This area was human territory. Barbaric demons would not set foot in this area under normal circumstances. Su Xiaoshui's trip was probably in vain. Besides, he was not worried about Su Xiaoshui's safety at all. That little guy was now in the 8th stage of the Demon Emperor realm. There were not many people in the entire Chaos territory who could threaten him. The possibility of him appearing here was even smaller. After all, Su Xiaoshui knew that there were no major forces in this area. Sui found a rock and sat down cross-legged. He closed his eyes and began to meditate. Throughout the journey, he had spent most of his time cultivating on Man Bao's back. He did not dare to relax too much. Improving his strength was the most important thing. He still had too many things to do. Without sufficient cultivation, it was impossible for him to achieve all his goals. Has Sui always been so hardworking? No wonder he's already so strong when he's about the same age as me. Feng Qi could not help but be moved when she saw the situation. She did not waste any time. She found a place not far from Su Yi and began to cultivate. Both of them entered a state of cultivation. Man Bao had no intention of escaping. After taking the elixir, he began to do the same. Night slowly enveloped the land. The forest became so dark that one could not even see their fingers in front of them. All of a sudden, the two of them and the beast emitted a blurry light. It was very dazzling in the dark night. After another 2 hours, Su Yi suddenly opened his eyes. Immediately after, he saw a huge creature falling from the sky and smashing hard on the ground not far from him. W. Jing. Version A. Head, /hair and _K. Roar. Man Bao was shocked by the commotion. He jumped up from the ground and arched his body, ready to attack. Feng Qi was also shocked. Her beautiful eyes were filled with extraordinary splendor. However, before she could take a closer look at the gigantic creature on the ground, she heard a familiar voice. "Boss, I found the meat!" Su Xiaoshui exclaimed in surprise. With a swoosh, he flew to Su Yi and flapped his wings excitedly. This is... Chapter 1251. Even in the dark of the night, Su Yi could see clearly that the python was over 300 feet long. Its entire body was dark green, and it had 4 pairs of wings. The 2 pairs of wings were silver, and they looked like 4 giant guillotines. After being thrown down by Su Xiaoyu, the python writhed weakly. It was obvious that it was severely injured and could no longer fly. Silver-winged green python. This is an advanced demon true realm savage beast. It has a high chance of entering the demon illusionary realm. Su Yi was slightly stunned. He didn't know how far Su Xiaoyu had run to catch this savage beast. This area was human territory, and there were very few savage beasts. Unlike the area around the Bawang sect, it was originally the territory of savage beasts. Savage beasts could be seen at any time. I was just walking around and didn't expect to meet this idiot. It even dared to attack me. Su Xiaoyu curled his lips and said disdainfully, "This guy seems to be looking for someone. I didn't want to attack him, but since he provoked me, I can only bring him back to eat." Su Yi heard this and realized that Su Xiaoyu hadn't run too far. It was strange that such a savage beast had appeared in the area. "Let me go, or my master won't let you go." Just as Su Yi was stunned, the struggling silver-winged green python said weakly to Su Yi, "Master? So it's someone else's mount. No wonder." Su Yi was stunned once again, but he instantly understood. He didn't expect Su Xiaoyu to catch someone else's mount. Su Yi didn't say much. After all, it attacked Su Xiaoyu first. So what if he caught it? Not only that, he was going to roast it and eat it. "Human, can you understand me?" The silver-winged green python was stunned when it heard Su Yi's muttering. "Who is your master?" Su Yi didn't answer and only asked, "Human, let me go." The silver-winged green python was very stubborn. It didn't answer Su Yi's question. Instead, it struggled to twist its body and glared at Su Yi. "It's fine if you don't want to answer. I don't plan to let you live anyway." Su Yi pursed his lips and slowly walked up to the silver-winged green python's head. He slammed his palm down and smashed the head into pieces, causing blood to spurt out. The python's body twitched a few times before it fell silent. "Boss, hurry up and roast the meat." Su Xiaoshui was so excited that he kept flying around Su Yi. "All right." Su Yi responded with a smile. He was also very greedy and immediately started eating. They found a small pond nearby and began to clean the silver-winged green python. Su Yi cut off a small part of the python's body and set up a fire to roast it. At the same time, he took out a big pot and stewed a pot of delicious meat soup. Not long after, the aroma of meat wafted through the air, whetting everyone's appetite. Su Xiaoshui didn't care about anything else. After a piece of python meat was cooked, He picked it up with his wings and gnawed on it until his mouth was covered in oil. Feng Qier, you have a piece too. Su Yi threw a piece to Feng Qier. This little girl hadn't eaten Su Yi's roast meat before, so she didn't understand why he was so obsessed with roast meat. After taking a bite of the roast meat, Feng Qier's big eyes lit up. He nodded his head and began to eat quickly in small bites. And you, this python meat will be very beneficial for you. Su Yi didn't hesitate and threw another piece of roast python meat to Savage Leopard. A silver-winged green python at the advanced level of Demon True Realm was definitely a great supplement for Savage Leopard at the Demon Spirit Realm. It could increase his strength by a lot. After Savage Leopard ate the meat, a warm current flowed through his body and he began to gain great benefit. His eyes flickered and he finished the rest of the python meat in a few bites. Then, he quickly ran to the side and closed his eyes to breathe. Su Yi smiled and continued to cut a big piece of meat to roast. He could imagine that the master of this silver-winged green python must be very powerful. Someone who had the ability to tame such a savage beast was definitely not simple. Su Yi estimated that the master was at least at the advanced level of Origin Void Realm. But he didn't care. Even if the master was at the Origin Emperor Realm, it wouldn't matter. Since the silver-winged green python dared to attack Su Xiaoshui, it was courting death. As for Su Xiaoshui, he would have a human head to eat even if he was hungry. Of course, he wouldn't reject it. Let me try this soup. The meat in Su Yi's hand was almost cooked. He put it aside and took out a big spoon from his interspatial bag. He took a spoonful and drank a mouthful with a face full of enjoyment. It had to be said that the python meat had a completely different taste whether it was stewed or roasted. When stewed, the soup was thick and juicy, while when roasted, it was crispy and delicious. "Boss, give me a bowl too." On the other side, handsome Su yelled as he chewed on the meat in big mouthfuls. Su Yi smiled. He took out a few more big bowls and filled them with steaming hot soup. He and handsome Su ate a mouthful of barbecued meat and a mouthful of soup. Both of them looked very happy. Feng Qier was more reserved. After all, she was a girl and had to be more reserved. Not long after, when she finished a big piece of roast meat and drank a big bowl of soup, she couldn't resist the surging energy in her body and ran to the side to cultivate like Savage Leopard. They wanted to dissolve this energy and use it to cultivate and improve themselves a little more. "I'm so full. Boss, I'm so happy." After a long time, Su Xiaoshui's belly was bulging. He kept rolling on the ground and yelling. A pair of wings stroked its round belly, and its expression of satisfaction was beyond words. "I haven't eaten such delicious food in a long time." Su Yi sat on the ground and looked at Su Xiaoshui's appearance. He only felt that it was very funny. With his and Su Xiaoshui's current strength, the energy in the python meat was not very useful. At most, it could satisfy their appetite. Not far from them, there was still a large piece of python meat lying there. It was not finished yet. Su Yi decided to keep it so that he could have a few more meals. "Boss, we ate one of their mounts. Do you think its owner will come and find us?" Suddenly, handsome Su stopped rolling and asked with a guilty look on his face. "You only thought of that now?" Su Yi smiled and looked at Su Xiaoshui. "Don't worry. Since it attacked your mount, its owner can't be a good person." "I see. Then I'm relieved," Su Xiaoshui replied and then continued rolling on the ground. He wasn't really afraid that the silver-winged green python's owner would find them. After all, with his cultivation, there was no need to be afraid. Chapter 1252. On the other hand, since Su Yi said that the silver-winged green python attacked handsome Su, its master must not be a good person. Even if the other party came looking for him, handsome Su would be able to take care of them as well. In fact, there were no good people in the Chaos Realm. Each one was more ruthless than the last. Only those with powerful backers would have the courage to talk about humanity and magnanimity. The two of them should be able to improve their strength this time. Su Yi looked at Feng Qier and Man Bao. Their bodies were glowing, and their auras were circulating endlessly. Especially Man Bao. Su Yi felt that his cultivation might have a breakthrough. After all, eating the flesh of a demon true realm cultivator was extremely beneficial to Man Bao. Looks like we'll have to wait. He didn't know how long Feng Qier and Man Bao would cultivate for, but it seemed like they couldn't continue their journey tonight. They could only wait until tomorrow. Boss, let's put away the rest of the meat. Su Xiaoshui howled comfortably on the ground for a while. Then, he flew up and grabbed the remaining half of the python's meat with his claws. He came to Su Yi's side and gestured for him to take out the space bag. Just as he was about to take action, he suddenly felt someone approaching. Su Xiaoshui also looked over and saw a figure flying towards them from afar. The bonfire on the ground burned fiercely, like a bright lamp, attracting the figure to come forward. Don't tell me that the silver-winged green python's master is here. Su Yi was stunned. Then, he saw the figure appear in front of him, standing on top of a big tree. At this moment, Su Xiaoshui was still holding the remaining half of the python's meat in his claws. It was extremely eye-catching. How dare you, little bastard! How dare you kill my sect master's mount? When the person saw Su Yi and Su Xiaoshui, he didn't have much of a reaction. However, when he saw the remaining half of the python's body, he was stunned for a long time. Immediately after, a furious roar erupted from his mouth. Su Yi and Su Xiaoshui looked at each other. Did this mean that the silver-winged green python's master was here? If I told you that I picked it up on the road and ate it because I didn't want to waste it, would you believe me? Su Yi gestured for handsome Su to keep quiet, but he said something like that. The man was obviously stunned, and then became even angrier as he shouted, "Little bastard, this old master will tear you to pieces." The expert's angry roar spread far and wide in the night. Su Yi could clearly see that it was an old man in his 50s or 60s. I don't know whose mount this is, but since it attacked us, it deserves to die. You can leave now. Otherwise, I'll deal with you as well. Su Yi's expression also became gloomy. After the other party appeared, he kept calling him little thief and little bastard, which made him feel extremely gloomy. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, another series of wind-breaking sounds rang out in the forest. A moment later, several figures appeared. Su Yi looked around and saw 7 or 8 burly men. Their auras were condensed, and their cultivation was not weak. Most of them were above the Yuanzhen stage. In addition, there was also a middle-aged man in his 40s who was tied up. His body was covered in blood, and it was obvious that he was captured by these people. Elder Zhong, what happened? Among the people, an advanced Yuanzhen stage powerhouse raised his head and looked at the person on the top of the tree. However, the old man did not answer. Instead, he moved and Yuan Qi surged out from his hands. In an instant, a blood-red roulette was formed, and he threw it at Su Yi. Very well, this old master wants to see how a little bastard like you can deal with me as well. As the old man's Yuanzhen stage aura surged, the surrounding forest trembled. The blood-red roulette streaked across the sky, causing a sharp whistle. Everywhere it passed, there was a burst of air. You'll know when you try. Su Yi snorted coldly. Facing the attack of the roulette, he did not dodge. Instead, he met it head-on. He stepped into the air, and a series of footprints appeared in the void. Finally, these footprints gathered together to form a huge footprint. 8 Desolate's fury, suppressing the mountains and rivers with a single step. These words came out of Su Yi's mouth. The last footprint, in an extremely barbaric manner, stomped down fiercely on the old man's blood-red roulette. Boom! A loud sound rang out and the forest shook. Boundless blood-red light exploded like a rain of light. However, Su Yi's footprints did not diminish. They went straight down and finally stomped on the mountain. Boom! Another earth-shattering sound rang out. A storm swept through the forest, and countless trees were blown to the side. At the place where the footprints landed, there was a huge pit that was several feet deep. Under the impact of the boundless storm, the old man instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. He originally wanted to directly capture the young man, but he never expected that the young man's strength would be so formidable, causing him to be instantly injured due to his carelessness. The old man's face was filled with shock as he staggered back. The remaining people that had just rushed over from the forest all retreated to the distance, and they were all extremely astounded. "You're only at the 5th level of the Yuanjin stage, yet you dare make a fuss before me? Fuck off now, otherwise I don't mind leaving an old dog like you here." Su Yi stood in the sky and stared coldly at the old man as he spoke. Below him, Feng Qi'er and Man Bao were still cultivating, and he didn't want to disturb them. Otherwise, he could deal with a 5th-level Yuanjin stage old man with a flip of his hand. Opposite him, Elder Zhong held his chest, and the corners of his eyes twitched fiercely. He was extremely terrified in his heart, yet he didn't know that a young man that looked to be only 24 or 25 years old had such a formidable strength that had already attained the Yuanjin stage. Moreover, based on the way he attacked earlier, his cultivation seemed to not be inferior to his own. This was too terrifying. "Very good." Elder Zhong tightly gritted his teeth and said coldly, "Kid, you're very strong indeed, but our sect master is nearby. You killed my sect master's mount, so even if you have 10 lives, it won't be enough for you to die today." As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand and said to the 7 or 8 people below, "Let's go." However, in the next moment, he just turned around when he noticed from the corner of his eyes that the young man had actually stepped on the sky and swiftly chased after him. The old man's heart went cold for no reason, and he originally wanted to turn around and continue the battle, but he thought about it and quickly left as he didn't dare continue being entangled here. Everything should wait until he converged with the sect master. However, what caused him to be horrified was that before he could flash out over 100 meters, a piercingly cold, strong wind violently assaulted him from behind. At the same time, an extremely cold voice entered into the old man's ears. "You actually dare to threaten me? Then you can leave your life here. This is the consequence of threatening me." Chapter 1253. Following Su Yi's words, a heavy punch followed. Origin Qi transformed into a fist with the power to split mountains. It was as if a mountain had smashed down and landed heavily on Elder Zhong's back. Bang! A muffled sound came from the old man's chest and resounded between heaven and earth. Such a punch caused the old man's back to cave in. His chest and back were instantly pressed together. His figure shot out like an arrow from a bow, drawing a straight line as he flew into the distance. After a long time, the sound of trees being smashed could be heard. Humph! After doing this, Su Yi snorted lightly and did not go over to check. This was because he sensed that the old man no longer had any signs of life after taking that punch. His breathing had stopped. Su Yi's eyes were extremely cold. He originally wanted to let the old man go and did not want to waste his time. Feng Qi'er and Man Bao were still cultivating, and he did not want to disturb them. Who would have thought that the old man did not know what was good for him and actually dared to threaten him? Then, he could not be blamed for killing the old man in a thunderous manner. This group of people must have nothing good. Then, let's kill them all. At the place where the meat was roasted, Su Xiaoshui threw down a large chunk of python meat. With a flap of his wings, a valiant aura surged out. A bright light emitted from his body. With a flap of his wings, he swept across an extremely long distance and caught up with the other 7 or 8 cultivators in an instant. Su Xiaoshui's figure could only be seen flying in the night. His 2 wings were like sharp blades as they swept across the air. Every time they landed, they would slash across a person's throat. After a few slashes, the previous group of people all fell into a pool of blood. Demon illusionary stage. Seeing this scene, the middle-aged man who was tied up could not help but speak in a daze. His face was filled with astonishment. A small bird that could speak could kill 7 or 8 cultivators before they could even resist. With such strength, there was no doubt that he was at the demon illusionary stage. "Boss, what should we do with this person? Should we kill him as well?" Su Xiaoshui stared at the remaining middle-aged man. This person was obviously an enemy of the previous group of people, so he asked Su Yi if he should kill him. "There's no rush." Su Yi descended from the sky and asked little handsome Su to bring the middle-aged man to where Feng Qi'er and Man Bao were. He first put the half of the python meat on the ground into his interspatial bag, then he looked at the middle-aged man and asked, "Who were those people just now?" Under Su Yi's gaze, the middle-aged man could not help but purse his lips, inhaling and calming himself down. "They are from the Blood Dragon Church. You should leave quickly. The Blood Dragon cult's cult master, Feng Yeming, is extremely powerful. He broke through to the Origin Emperor realm not long ago. He will find this place very soon." Blood Dragon sect. Su Yi raised his eyebrows. This was the second time he had heard of this sect. The fact that Shui Yu had been hunted down previously seemed to be related to this Blood Dragon Church as well. However, Su Yi still did not care. This sect that he had never heard of was not enough to move him. After thinking for a moment, he pointed out a finger and cut off the ropes on the middle-aged man's body. At the same time, he sent his origin chi into the middle-aged man's body and undid the restrictions on him. Origin Void Realm, not bad. Sensing the flow of power in the middle-aged man's body, Su Yi nodded his head. This person looked to be around 40 years old, but had the cultivation of the middle level of the Origin Void Realm. He was not weak. However, at this moment, his strength was damaged and he was injured. The flow of Origin Qi was also not very smooth. "I am Shui Qianqiu. Thank you for saving my life." The middle-aged man immediately relaxed and felt the power in his Qi flowing back into his meridians. He could not help but thank Su Yi with cupped fists. Su Yi waved his hand, not caring at all. However, after hearing the middle-aged man's name, he could not help but ask, "Shui Qianqiu, is it another person with the surname Shui? What is your relationship with Shui Yu?" These two people with the surname Shui had met Su Yi on the same day. They might really be related. Shui Qianqiu was stunned at first, then he was suddenly overjoyed. At the same time, he said nervously, "She is my niece. Have you seen Shui Yu before? Where is he now? Is he well?" "So you are uncle and niece." Su Yi understood. Shui Qianqiu was Shui Yu's uncle. This was really a coincidence. "I have met her before, but she was being chased. The people who chased her were from the Green Flame Gang. However, they were killed by me just like those people from the Blood Dragon Church. However, I do not know where she is now," Sui said calmly. "People from the Green Flame Gang." Shui Qianqiu gritted his teeth and took half a step back. He cupped his fists and bowed deeply to Su Yi, saying, "Shui Qianqiu thanks you for saving my uncle and niece. I am eternally grateful." Su Yi nodded his head and accepted this bow. He then asked, "What is the background of this Blood Dragon Church? I don't seem to have heard of it. Tell me about it." Sui found a rock and sat down. He gestured for Shui Qianqiu to sit down as well. Since Feng Qi'er and Man Bao were still cultivating, he might as well learn more about the Blood Dragon Church. After all, he had dealt with the Blood Dragon Church twice. Since the Green Flame Gang was backed by the Blood Dragon Church, they could be considered as a member of the Blood Dragon Church. Shui Qianqiu sorted out his thoughts. He still had a lingering fear in his heart. "You must be from some big force. It is normal that you have not heard of the Blood Dragon Church." Shui Qianqiu took a deep look at Sui. Such a young man at the Origin Void Realm could kill Elder Zhong in one blow. He must have a big background. There was also a little bird at the Demon Void Realm following beside him. Such a combination was almost impossible for a small force or a rogue cultivator. Shui Qianzhou felt that this young man was probably one of the most outstanding disciples of the three big forces. He was so young but so powerful. No wonder he dared to walk in the Chaos region. However, he did not ask too much. He was afraid that he would offend this young man. If this young man was unhappy, he might have to die here. After all, the Chaos region was like this. It was normal for someone to save you in 1 second and kill you in the next. Shui Qianzhou paused for a moment and continued. This area is called the Red Dragon Ridge. Originally, the forces were mixed and divided. The Blood Dragon Church, the Green Flame Gang, and my Frenzy Mercenary Group were all part of it. Although there was a difference in strength between them, it was not very big. However, not long ago, the leader of the Blood Dragon Church, Feng Yeming, suddenly broke through to the Origin Emperor realm and his strength increased greatly. This suddenly broke the balance here. Therefore, the Blood Dragon Church began to annex everywhere. Any forces big or small that resisted were all killed. Sui listened and nodded secretly. This was a normal situation. The Chaos region was like this. Once one side had absolute strength, they would definitely annex all the small forces. Chapter 1254. When the various forces were of similar strength in the past, they would grit their teeth and endure the friction between them. No one would really fight to the death. However, it was different now. The leader of the Blood Dragon Church had broken through from the Origin Void Realm to the Origin Emperor Realm, raising the Blood Dragon Church by a level. Of course, they had to settle the score. Many small forces were destroyed or swallowed up. Among them, the Green Flame Gang was the first to see the situation and very decisively sided with the Blood Dragon Church. Originally, for our Wild Billow Mercenary Alliance, joining the Blood Dragon Church was not something unbearable. After all, such situations often happen in the Chaos region. Shui Qianzhou continued, but his face suddenly became sorrowful and angry. However, that Feng Yeming was extremely evil and married my niece, Shui Yu, to him as a concubine. Elder brother and I, as well as many people in the Wild Billow Mercenary Alliance, were absolutely unwilling to agree to this. After all, we could not do what the leader of the Green Flame Gang, He Jun, did and gave his wife and daughter to that pervert for pleasure in exchange for trust. Therefore, we dismissed most of the members of the Mercenary Alliance. The remaining people wanted to leave the Red Dragon Ridge and find a place to stay. However, that Feng Yeming did not give up on Shui Yu and sent people to kill her. Elder brother also died in their hands. At this point, Shui Qianzhou's eyes turned red. A 7 feet tall man actually had tears in his eyes. Sui could not help but be moved. He had not thought that there was such a reason behind this. As for the leader of the Green Flame Gang, he had a whole new level of respect for him. He could even give his wife and daughter to the leader of the Blood Dragon Church. Boss, how can there be such a deranged person in this world? Hearing this, little handsome Su was also sorrowful and angry. This could not be said to be kind or righteous. It could only be said that as a person, there were some principles and bottom lines that should be upheld to the end. Su Yi's heart palpitated. However, he did not show it on his face and only sighed inwardly. Go and find Shui Yu. After that, you can head towards the southeast direction and find Xianjian Sex Ji Tianfu or Liuhe Sex Lin Jinyang. You can temporarily stay there. Su Yi thought for a while and said to Shui Qianzhou. Shui Qianzhou was also a man who valued friendship. If he could lend a helping hand, he would be willing to do so. Xianjian faction. Liuhe faction. Shui Qianzhou was stunned once again. Of course, he had heard of these two sections. They were extremely powerful forces. However, what was the identity of this young man? Would he really be able to get the other party to take him in? Go find them and tell Ji Tianfu or Lin Jinyang that I told you to go. They will know then. Su Yi added. He didn't go into too much detail, only hinting to Shui Qianqiu that he only needed to describe their appearances. Ji Tianfu and Lin Jinyang might not know what she looked like now, but they definitely knew handsome Su. Ji Tianfu had also seen Feng Qier before. Good. This time, not only did you save my uncle and nephew's lives, you also pointed out the way out. Shui Qianqiu thanks you. Shui Qianqiu bowed again and put away his sadness. He said firmly, in the future, if you have any errands, Shui Qianqiu will do anything for you. Sui did not say anything, nor did he avoid this bow. He only waved his hand lightly, and an invisible force lifted Shui Qianqiu up. Oh right. Suddenly Shui Qianqiu said again, Benefactor, you should leave this place as soon as possible. In the Blood Dragon sect, not only has Feng Yeming's cultivation reached the Origin Emperor realm, but he also has a powerful backer. It's said that he has the help of an expert from the Jade Tripod Alchemy clan. And Feng Yeming's recent increase in cultivation has a lot to do with the people of the Jade Tripod Alchemy clan. Jade Tripod Alchemy clan? These words immediately stunned Su Yi. The Jade Tripod Alchemy clan had already been destroyed. The remaining few Origin Emperor realm experts and a large number of disciples had all scattered like birds and beasts. He did not expect to be able to get news of them here. This was very unexpected. He remained calm and collected, but he asked Shui Qianqiu about the location of the Blood Dragon sect. Shui Qianqiu naturally told Su Yi everything he knew about the situation. Benefactor, Shui Qianqiu will take his leave first. In the end, Shui Qianqiu bid farewell to Su Yi and Su Xiaoshui. He turned around and left, stepping into the night. For some reason, Shui Qianqiu felt a little excited. He knew that this young man did not lie to him. A person who could casually call out the names of Ji Tianfu and Lin Jinyang definitely had a great background. In addition, before he left, Su Yi also gave him a healing pill. Boss, they won't be caught again, right? Su Xiaoshui landed on Su Yi's shoulder and asked worriedly. The sect master of the Blood Dragon sect is nearby. The people chasing after Shui Yu should be the Azure Flame sect. As long as they are careful, they should be able to escape successfully. The only thing to worry about is whether Shui Qianqiu can find Shui Yu quickly, Sui said. He no longer thought about this matter. After all, he had helped them as much as he could. The rest would depend on their fate. If Shui Qianqiu could successfully go to the Xianjian sect or the Liuhe sect, Sui felt that he could bring him to the Bawang sect in the future. After all, an Essence Void Realm expert was also very rare. The reason why he did not let Shui Qianqiu go directly to the Bawang sect was because he did not want to expose his current identity. In addition, the periphery of the Bawang sect had already been strengthened. There were a large number of barbaric beasts patrolling at all times. They would not let Shui Qianqiu get close easily. I didn't expect the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect's Essence Emperor Realm experts to hide here and even control a small force. Boss, do you think we should go and find those people? Su Xiaoshui's eyes flashed with a hint of killing intent as he said coldly. Everyone understood the principle of cutting the weeds and eliminating the root. The experts of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect were not completely dead. It was fine if they did not discover them in the past, but now that they had appeared, it was best to kill them all. Those people are just clowns. They are no longer a concern, Sui said. Then, the corners of his mouth slowly curled up, revealing a hint of a smile. He said, their lives are worthless. However, those people took away a lot of good things. His eyes were bright, and there was a flickering light in them. Su Xiaoshui immediately understood what Sui meant. After the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect was destroyed, The remaining Essence Emperors saw that the situation was not good and left in advance. They also went back and took away all the treasures and prenatal stones of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect. Previously, Su-yi was very regretful because at that time, the Bawang sect was seriously injured and could not plunder on a large scale. Even the remaining small profits of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect were divided up by many small forces. Not a single strand of hair was left. Now, he actually accidentally discovered the few Essence Emperors of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect here. It seems that what should be mine can't escape no matter what. Chapter 1255. After chatting with Handsome Su for a while, Su-yi found a place to sit down and began cultivating. Feng Qier and Man Bao were still digesting the energy they had obtained from the silver-winged green python's meat. Su-yi decided to wait for them to wake up. With Handsome Su keeping watch nearby, he wasn't worried that someone would suddenly appear and disturb them. The night passed silently. When the sky brightened, Feng Qier and Man Bao's auras were steaming and spreading out like clouds. Their auras were growing and were much stronger than before. Su-yi slowly opened his eyes with a smile on his face. "How was it? Did you get some benefits?" he asked softly as he looked at Feng Qier, who had finished exhaling and stopped cultivating. "You've improved quite a bit. I didn't know that eating the meat of a barbaric demon beast would have such a great benefit." Feng Qier looked at Su-yi and said while blinking her eyes. "Roar!" Man Bao also let out a low roar and crawled in front of Su-yi. "Not bad, both of you have improved." Su-yi could understand the beast language and knew that Man Bao was thanking him. The energy in the silver-winged green python's meat was very effective for him and Feng Qier. Although they couldn't use it to break through, they would definitely improve. "Boss, let's go," Handsome Su said while flapping his wings. Su-yi nodded. Without further delay, they rode on Man Bao and began traveling through the forest. This time, they changed their direction slightly and headed east. That was where the Blood Dragon sect was located. It was where Shui Qianqiu had pointed them to. On the way, Feng Qier changed Handsome Su's temperament into a ferocious one. When he attacked last night, their previous arrangements were instantly destroyed. Man Bao was very fast. After an hour, they had already traveled close to 100 miles. The few of them stopped and observed their surroundings. Perhaps because they were getting closer to the Blood Dragon sect, they began to see sporadic figures in the surroundings. Most of them looked like lone cultivators who traveled alone. Some of these people were heading in the same direction. The Blood Dragon Church should be nearby. "Let's go take a look," Su-yi spoke. The barbarian leopard continued moving forward. As expected, not long after, they saw a building appear in their field of vision. These buildings were very scattered, and there was no pattern to speak of, but there were quite a number of them. Overall, it looked very similar to a small town in the mortal world. As expected of a small faction. They don't even have a city. Su-yi muttered to himself. He guessed that the small town ahead was probably the center of a certain force in the Red Dragon Ridge. There were also some shops and people coming and going, but it was definitely not prosperous. Compared to Sword Star City, it was like heaven and earth. The difference was too great. There wasn't even a city wall here, only a circle of fences. Many places were severely damaged, and it was just for show. I wonder if the Blood Dragon Church is here. "Boss, do you want me to go take a look first?" Little Handsome Su jumped onto Su-yi's head and said as he looked from afar. "From now on, you're not allowed to speak. Unless it's necessary for you to attack, be a good little bird." Su-yi pulled him down from the top of his head and instructed him again. "All right." Handsome Su had no choice but to lower his head and agree. Su-yi brought Feng Qier down from the barbarian leopard's back. With Handsome Su on his shoulder, they began to walk towards the small town. The barbarian leopard followed closely behind. Such a team attracted the attention of many people as soon as they got close. However, no one dared to approach them. After all, Su-yi was wearing a brocade robe and a jade belt. He looked very heroic, and it was obvious that he had a background. Brother Fengyun, how do we find the Blood Dragon Church? Do we have to search slowly? Looking at the surrounding buildings, Feng Qier couldn't help but ask. This small town didn't look prosperous, but it wasn't small either. It would definitely take some time to search slowly. That's easy. Su-yi smiled. His gaze swept across the not-so-dense crowd on the street. He saw a group of 7 or 8 people. These people were wearing the same clothes. It was obvious that they were from a certain faction. Without thinking, Su-yi brought Handsome Su, Feng Qier, and the barbarian leopard to walk together. Soon, they arrived beside these people. You're from the Blood Dragon Church. He looked at the people in front of him and asked directly. The cultivators' ages ranged from 20 to 40 years old. When they heard Su-yi's question, they were all stunned. Then, a bearded man in his 30s chuckled and said, "That's right. We're from the Blood Dragon Church's Green Flame Hall. You two don't look familiar. And this girl, why don't you let me have some fun?" As he spoke, the man's gaze turned to Feng Qier. He took a few steps forward and reached out a hand to lift Feng Qier's chin. He had never seen such a beautiful woman. "Get lost!" Feng Qier exclaimed. She waved her slender palm and a black aura filled the air. She slapped the man's arm. Chi-chi, immediately, the black aura spread along the man's arm and entered his body. It followed the meridians of his arm and went straight into his organs. The man screamed like a pig being slaughtered. In just a moment, his entire body turned into the color of charcoal. Then, his eyes bulged, his body stiffened, and he fell to the ground with a loud bang. Such a scene caused the remaining people to be stunned on the spot, and they were astounded in their hearts. It was Feng Qier's first time killing someone. She was a little flustered. However, when she looked at the big man on the ground whose face was completely unrecognizable, there was extreme disgust in her eyes. This kind of person deserves to die. Su-yi did not comfort Feng Qier. He only said indifferently, You. The remaining people from the Green Flame Hall were horrified. This was the territory of the Green Flame Gang. They did not expect someone to behave atrociously and kill their people. It would be fine if it was just killing someone. However, the way the man died was too strange. It was terrifying for no reason. The Green Flame Hall should be the Green Flame Gang. He didn't die in vain. Su-yi did not have a good impression of the gang leader of the Green Flame Gang. A person who could exchange his wife and daughter for a life of luxury was definitely not a good person. Being a subordinate of such a person would not be any better. If he died, so be it. However, he was surprised by Feng Qier's methods. It was the girl's first time attacking, and her instincts were already so strong. Others might not be able to sense it, but Su-yi clearly noticed that Feng Qier's poisonous aura not only destroyed the man's vitality, but also devoured his soul. Chapter 1256. Su-yi looked at the remaining members of the Azure Flame Gang and said coldly, You. Those people were so shocked that they wanted to die. Seeing that their companion had died strangely, they did not dare to directly attack Su-yi. They did not even dare to say a word and quickly fled like stray dogs. Su-yi watched them leave and stood by the side of the road like a javelin with his hands behind his back. He did not expect that this place was not where the Blood Dragon sect was, but the territory of the Azure Flame Gang. However, it did not matter. He had just found out that the current Azure Flame Gang had already become the Blood Dragon sect's Azure Flame Hall. It did not matter who he looked for. No matter what, it should not be difficult to find the people of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect by first finding the leader of the Azure Flame Gang. Jun Su-yi and Feng Qier stood on the street. Su-yi stood quietly on his shoulder, not saying a word. Behind him, Barbarian Bao was lying on the ground, looking around with his leopard eyes. The situation here quickly attracted the attention of many people in the town. Most of them were itinerant cultivators, and many people had witnessed the scene earlier. The charred corpse of the burly man on the ground began to turn into pitch-black blood, which made many people not dare to approach it. What kind of cultivation technique is that? It's actually so poisonous. Some people in the crowd spoke in shock. Looking at the corpse, they felt their scalps go numb. That girl looks like she's only in her teens. How can she have such a vicious method? However, this method is really powerful. That man just now was at least at the essence spirit realm, right? He actually died in an instant. There were also people who were speechless. Looking at the slender and elegant girl, they could not help but shiver. These two people must have a background, otherwise they wouldn't dare to cause trouble here. No matter how strong their background is, it won't work. The leader of the Azure Flame Gang is a high-level Essence Void Realm expert. Now, he has even joined the Blood Dragon sect. No matter how strong those two people are, their age is still there. How can they fight against Essence Void Realm and Essence Emperor Realm existences? Today's matter will definitely not be settled peacefully. Many people came over to watch and began to point and whisper among themselves. Those who could cause trouble here were definitely not simple people. However, that man and woman were still young after all. In front of the Azure Flame Gang and the Blood Dragon Church, they were probably not enough. Most people were not worried about Su-yi and Feng-Chiu. Instead, they crossed their arms and thought that there would be a good show to watch today. They all wanted to know how that young man would die in the end. As for that young girl, she would most likely be captured and sent to the Blood Dragon Church's chief. Heh. I wonder if Feng Yeming would dare to take a woman covered in poison. Someone said. Sui heard all these words. All the surrounding spectators had probably never imagined that the young man they were ridiculing was in existence at the 9th level of the Origin Void stage, and his soul force was peerlessly formidable. All whispers were unable to escape his perception. However, Su-yi did not flare up. He just waited quietly. Sure enough, not long after, a figure flew over from afar. As his yuan qi rolled, his aura was blazing. He's here. Su-yi opened his eyes and took in the person who had just arrived. It was a lean middle-aged man with dark skin and a short stature. Who dares to be presumptuous in my Azure Flame Hall's territory? The lean middle-aged man's voice arrived before his person. He flew over swiftly and quickly landed in front of Su-yi and Feng-Chiu. After he appeared, he did not attack immediately. Instead, the corners of his mouth curled up and revealed an extremely ugly smile. This smile exposed his lips and teeth, making him look like a mouse. As expected, there really is a little girl here. She's really pretty. The middle-aged man looked at Feng-Chiu and let out a treacherous and lewd laugh. He said, "You actually dared to cause trouble here and kill people from my Azure Flame Hall. Then, I'll take you as compensation. Once I'm done enjoying you, I can even offer you to sect leader Feng." Hehehe. He completely ignored Su-yi's existence and only stared fixedly at Feng-Chiu. He seemed to be intoxicated in some kind of concept. Damn it. Feng-Chiu gritted her teeth. She felt extremely uncomfortable being stared at by the middle-aged man. The surrounding people who were waiting to watch a good show also widened their eyes at this moment. Everyone let out a chuckle. He-jun is here. These two are definitely going to have a hard time. It's just a pity for that little girl. If only she could give me a good time. Hehehe. Someone swallowed his saliva and said with a strange smile. For many people who lived in the Chaos region, human lives were sometimes used for fun. I almost forgot that there's still a little brat here. Then I'll kill you first. The middle-aged man stared at Feng-Chiu for a while before he turned to Su-yi. His face darkened as he said coldly. A golden light radiated from his body. The metal attribute energy was boiling. The power of the origin void realm surged endlessly with a sharp whistling sound. Go to hell, little brat. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and raised one of his palms. Under the cover of the tyrannical metal attribute energy, a huge light palm was formed and slammed directly at Su Yi's head. At the same time, he sneered in his heart. The middle-aged man was confident that he could smash the young man in front of him into meat paste with one blow. The surrounding onlookers were also excited at this moment. The scene of blood splattering was their favorite. You? The middle-aged man's palm pressed down, but suddenly, the figure of the young man in the brocade robe shook violently and became blurred. Under everyone's gaze, the young man bent his waist and raised his leg horizontally. In an instant, the young man's leg passed through the antibody light shield outside the middle-aged man's body and ruthlessly kicked his chest. With a bang, the middle-aged man's body instantly bent like a big shrimp and flew out. He crashed into a nearby building, causing rocks to roll and instantly turning it into ruins. The surrounding onlookers were like a group of geese that had been strangled by their throats. One by one, they craned their necks and were extremely horrified. The leader of the Green Flame Gang, an advanced Origin Void stage powerhouse, was actually so vulnerable? Not only was the middle-aged man sent flying, but they also saw that the golden light palm hit the young man in the brocade robe, but it shattered inch by inch like porcelain. However, the young man in the brocade robe stood there as if nothing had happened. At this moment, he began to slowly withdraw his leg. You're just a useless person. Su Yi did not care about what the surrounding onlookers thought. He stepped forward and walked toward the ruins of the building. In a pile of rocks, he found the middle-aged man. His face was now a bloody mess, and he looked extremely dispirited. He was so badly injured that it was difficult for him to even get up. You must be He-jun. I have to say, your mouth is just as disgusting as your personality. I don't even want to kill you with my hands because I don't want to dirty my hands. Chapter 1257. Su Yi was truly afraid of dirtying his hands. This He-jun could even give his wife and daughter away in exchange for his own stability and power. And the words he had said to Feng Qir earlier made Su Yi feel even more disgusted. You, under Su Yi's feet, He-jun gasped for breath with difficulty, but was unable to speak for a long time. Large amounts of blood kept flowing out of his mouth. Tell me where Feng Yeming is. Su Yi did not waste any time and directly asked. He had been on guard for the entire night. He originally thought that Feng Yeming's mount and the sect leaders group would disappear and he would be able to find him, but the truth was that he did not. Since that was the case, he could only look for him himself. Ugh! Hearing Su Yi's question, He-jun weakly raised his hand and pointed in a direction. However, it was still difficult for him to speak. Su Yi frowned. It seemed that he had used too much force just now. That kick was a little too heavy, and it was hard for him to even speak. Man Bao, bring him along. Su Yi retracted his foot and said. Man Bao growled and suddenly rushed over, picking He-jun up with his mouth. After that, Su Yi brought Su Xiaoshui and Feng Qir and walked in the direction that He-jun had pointed out. I hope you don't lie, or else I'll make you die a horrible death. Su Yi glanced at He-jun and said coldly. He was not worried that He-jun would lie to him. Although the middle-aged man could not speak, his body was trembling uncontrollably. He was obviously scared to death and did not dare to lie. This kind of person even had a soft spine. It was unknown how he managed to cultivate to the Origin Void stage. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the figures of Su Yi and the others flashed, quickly turning into another cluster of buildings, their figures disappearing from sight. Until now, the crowd of onlookers on the streets were all dumbstruck, unable to react in time. Everything had happened too quickly. From He Jun's attack to Su-yi ordering the man Bao to take him away, it had only been a short span of 10 breaths. What powerful strength! Who the hell is that young man? He's so powerful! The Green Flame Gang is probably finished. I just don't know if the Blood Dragon Church can suppress him. The sound of people swallowing their saliva could be heard. Everyone on the street was horrified. Just as they had expected, today's matter was not going to end well. However, the final result was the complete opposite of what everyone had imagined. An existence at the high level of the Origin Void stage was instantly heavily injured by a young man around the age of 20. This caused everyone to find it hard to believe. All the people who had witnessed all of this were bound to have another topic to talk about enthusiastically. All of this had nothing to do with Su-yi. He Jun was held in Man Bao's mouth, and he occasionally pointed out a direction, whereas Su-yi and the others followed his directions. The Red Dragon Ridge was not a particularly large place. It was only a few dozen miles in radius. With the speed of Su-yi and the others, they passed through some mountain forests that could not be considered desolate. 30 minutes later, they arrived at a place that looked like a small town. What was different was that there were many flags on the street. All of them had the word Blood Dragon written on them. There were also many blood-red dragon totems drawn on them. Moreover, they were slightly more popular. Su-yi and the others directly passed through the streets and headed towards the center. Along the way, many people saw them. Naturally, they also saw the He Jun that the man Bao spoke of. Many of them recognized him and could not help but begin to point him out. There were even some members of the Blood Dragon Church who were surprised and felt that something was wrong. They wanted to return to the church to inform their leader, but they were completely unable to keep up with the speed of Su-yi and the others. Not long after, Su-yi and the others appeared before a building. It looked like an ordinary mansion, and the words Blood Dragon Church were written on the door. Found it! Su-yi laughed softly. After nearly 2 hours, they had finally found the Blood Dragon Church. Without any hesitation, he dashed out and headed straight for the door. Roar, behind him, the man Bao let out a low roar, asking Su-yi what he should do with He Jun who was in his mouth. Kill him! Su-yi's voice sounded. The man Bao did not hesitate at all and directly bit down, biting He Jun's body into 2, causing him to die instantly. Immediately after, the man Bao also stepped forward and followed beside Feng Qi. Who is it? Stop! When Su-yi rushed to the door, the cultivators guarding the door shouted. However, before they could finish their words, they fell into a pool of blood. Su-yi's speed was extremely fast. In almost the blink of an eye, he had rushed into the courtyard. When he released his soul power, he instantly heard a woman's panting and shouting. As a virgin in 2 lives, Su-yi had also watched some porn in his previous life. He instantly recognized this kind of lewd sound. According to Shui Qianqiu, Feng Yeming was extremely lewd, but he did not expect that he would be seeking pleasure in broad daylight. Su-yi frowned and followed the direction of the voice. Soon, he found a house. He stood at the door and kicked it fiercely. With a bang, the wooden door shattered and fragments flew everywhere. Ah! A woman in the room screamed and grabbed the blanket on the bed to cover her body. On her body, a middle-aged man instantly turned his head and looked angrily at the youth at the door. He was at a critical moment, but he was suddenly frightened and could not help but be furious. Who are you? How dare you barge into my Blood Dragon Church? The middle-aged man stood up and walked down the bed. He pulled a robe and casually tied it around his waist before slowly walking towards Su-yi. His anger surged as his origin chi surged and his killing intent overflowed. The aura of the Origin Emperor realm spread out like a vast wave. You should be Feng Yeming, right? Sensing this aura, Su-yi was extremely sure that this person was Feng Yeming without a doubt. There shouldn't be a second person in the Blood Dragon Church with a cultivation at the first level of the Origin Emperor realm. Brat, no matter where you come from, I will tear you into pieces today. Feng Yeming was furious, completely ignoring Su Yi's words. He suddenly stomped on the ground, and terrifying origin chi surged, turning into a terrifying storm. The energy on his body expanded, and in an instant, the entire house was sent flying. The bed and the woman on the bed were also sent flying, and a bright red mist of blood exploded in mid-air. However, Su Yi stood on the spot and only took 2 steps back. He circulated the energy in his body to resist the storm. Boss, why don't I take action and take down this dog? On Su Yi's shoulder, Su Xiaoshui said to him through sound transmission. Su Yi shook his head silently, and then said through sound transmission, "Pay attention to the outside. Leave this dog to me. I can practice." He stared at the bare-chested middle-aged man opposite him, and a strong fighting intent surged in his eyes. Chapter 1258. Hearing this, Su Xiaoshui instantly flew away and landed on Feng Qi-er's shoulder. Su Yi looked at the middle-aged man in front of him as his eyes flickered. He had just broken through to the 9th level of the Origin Void stage not long ago. Facing such an Origin monarch, although there was a difference of a large realm, he felt that it shouldn't be difficult for him to deal with it. Just as he was thinking, layers of billowing Origin energy gushed out from Su Yi's body and spread out in the air, causing a fierce vibration. An Origin Void stage kid isn't weak. When this sect master captures you, I'll definitely interrogate you properly. Feeling Su Yi's strength, Feng Yeming was extremely surprised. He didn't expect that the youth before him was actually a powerful Origin Void stage. If it was before, he would still have to be apprehensive. But now that he was an Origin Monarch stage powerhouse, he didn't have the slightest bit of fear. Feng Yeming's expression couldn't help but darken when he was suddenly interrupted. He didn't want to ask the reason why this youth appeared here. As long as he captured him, he would have plenty of time to slowly interrogate him. With this thought in mind, a ferocious fire attribute Yuan Qi rushed out from his body, instantly transforming into a huge fire dragon, twisting its body in the air. Qi, the broken wood of the house on the ground burned fiercely. Raging flames surged, burning everything in the sky. The fire dragon raised its head and roared, suddenly pouncing. Just a first-level Origin monarch. Destroying you is as easy as pie. When such words came out from Su Yi's mouth, his gaze became extremely cold in an instant. Looking at the fire dragon approaching, he stood on the spot without moving, allowing the scorching air wave to slap on his body. At the same time, the art of controlling heaven in his body circulated rapidly. Buzz, 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 a tyrannical soul force surging out like a tide. The soul force was invisible and omnipresent. It instantly rushed into Feng Yeming's mind, causing his body to suddenly tremble and throb endlessly. Soul Controller. In an instant, Feng Yeming realized that the youth standing in front of him was a powerful soul controller. Under his gaze, the young man's fingers danced as he formed one profound seal after another. What followed was the sound of countless remnant souls wailing in the surroundings. Woo-woo! A large number of remnant souls were attracted, and the phantoms of 100 ghosts walked under the bright light of the universe. Soon, they gathered around Su Yi. In a short moment, these remnant souls condensed, the power of fire surged, and also transformed into a huge fire dragon. Under Feng Yeming's shocked gaze, it fiercely charged towards the fire dragon that he had shot out. Roar Most P. New Chapter 5 Section *E above K. The 2 fire dragons roared and roared. They were incomparably powerful and stirred up space. Everywhere they passed, the air seemed to be ignited. Boom! After a while, the 2 of them collided violently, creating an earth-shattering rumble that shook the heavens and the earth. Scorching heat waves spread out, and a circle of terrifying flame ripples rapidly expanded. Su Yi didn't retreat. Instead, he stomped on the ground and charged towards the ripples. At the same time, he ceaselessly formed complicated hand seals in his hand, and another Earth Barbarian Ape Phantom was condensed. Roar, roar! The Earth Barbarian Ape condensed from the power of the Earth was like a small mountain. It pounded its chest with its fists, producing an earth-shaking drum sound. It tore through the layers of flames and brazenly pounced forward. Feng Yeming retreated a few steps. He was still a little stunned, and was surprised by the strength of the youth in front of him. Only when the Earth Barbarian Ape rushed in front of him did he make a move to deal with it. What a powerful soul controller! Feng Yeming muttered. The fire attribute origin chi on his body surged violently. His naked upper body was burned red by the flames, looking as if it was made of molten iron, emitting an extremely strong sense of power. The bright flames wrapped around Feng Yeming, burning fiercely on the surface of his body, causing his body to grow several feet taller, turning into a flame giant. Kill! Feng Yeming bellowed, took a step forward, and fought with the Earth Barbarian Ape. The battle situation here attracted the attention of many people from the Blood Dragon sect, but no one dared to approach. Many people watched from afar, their hearts trembling. As for Su Xiao Shuai and Feng Qi'er, they were also quietly watching. Su Yi's ability to control remnant souls is really strong. Feng Qi'er's eyes sparkled. Unlike others, she was also a soul controller and could clearly see that the remnant souls in the sky were being controlled by Su Yi at will. The remnant souls of the four attributes of earth, fire, water, and wind were all attracted by him. At the same time, a powerful soul force spread out in the void, causing Feng Qi'er to feel palpitations. Of course, otherwise how can he be my boss? Su Xiao Shuai, on the other hand, had a matter-of-fact look. In his understanding, Su Yi was his boss, and was definitely far stronger than ordinary people. I wonder if he can defeat that person. Feng Qi'er was still muttering to herself. Don't worry, he's only at the first level of the Origin Emperor realm. If boss really wants to kill him, it'll only take a flip of his hand. Su Xiao Shuai said softly, watching the battlefield while also observing the surrounding movements. He wanted to find other experts who might appear, and his purpose here was to find those people from the Jade Tripod Alchemy clan. Under his and Feng Qi'er's gazes, the battlefield was abnormally intense. The palm of the Earth Barbarian Ape was like a solid stone wall, shaking the sky from top to bottom and ruthlessly slapping towards Feng Yeming. Feng Yeming raised both his hands high above his head, and the power of the fire attribute shot out, brazenly meeting the palm of the Earth Barbarian Ape. The moment the two came into contact, the power of the two attributes surged wildly, and a sharp howl filled the air. The palm of the Earth Barbarian Ape was like 100,000 mountains collapsing. It carried an extremely strong power, and with an absolutely tyrannical posture, it instantly slapped Feng Yeming until his arm bent, and a crisp creaking sound could be heard from his spine. Roar! As the palm fell, the other palm of the Earth Barbarian Ape's shadow followed closely, suddenly attacking Feng Yeming's side. Bang! Feng Yeming was sent flying, spitting out blood as he smashed onto the ground. Is this the strength of the Origin Emperor realm? If that's the case, then let's end it. Su Yi's gaze was dark as he said softly. His soul force surged, and the Earth Barbarian Ape's feet suddenly stomped on the ground, directly stepping into the air, and instantly landing in front of Feng Yeming. Roar! A terrifying roar rang out as it raised its leg and ruthlessly stomped on Feng Yeming's chest. Feng Yeming originally wanted to resist again, but the strength of the Earth Barbarian Ape was simply too great. The power of its foot was truly as terrifying as the pressure of Mount Tai, breaking both of his arms like dry firewood. A terrifying depression had appeared on his chest. An Origin Emperor realm expert was quickly suppressed. Brat, who exactly are you? Feng Yeming lay on the ground, his face the color of a pig's liver due to the pain. At this time, he was truly terrified to the extreme. To think that he, a dignified Origin Emperor realm expert, would actually lose so quickly at the hands of an Origin Void stage expert. This was hard to accept. Chapter 1259. The people of the Jade Tripod Alchemy clan still haven't appeared? After defeating Feng Yeming, Su Yi did not go forward to check the situation. Instead, he looked around. The strange thing was that the few experts who had escaped from the Jade Tripod Alchemy clan had yet to appear. Logically speaking, with such a big commotion, they should at least appear. Could it be that the information Shui Qianqiu received was wrong? Looks like I have to interrogate him again. Sui did not think too much about it. With a wave of his hand, the Earth Barbarian Ape Phantom dissipated. He released a few restrictions that landed on Feng Yeming's body. Boss! At this moment, Su Xiaoshui flew over and landed on Su Yi's shoulder. Feng Qier and Man Bao also stepped forward. Let's go! Su Yi called out, picked up the miserable Feng Yeming, and stood on Man Bao's back with a man and a bird, quickly leaving. Sect Master, in the surroundings, many members of the Blood Dragon sect were shocked when they saw their sect master being taken away. However, no one dared to step forward to stop them. After all, even their sect master was not a match for that young man. If they stepped forward, it would be tantamount to courting death. Watching Su Yi and the others leave, the Blood Dragon sect instantly fell into chaos. All the sect members were like ants on a hot pan. Su Yi would not care about these things. He brought Feng Yeming and quickly rushed into the forest. He found a remote place and threw him down. The robe tied around Feng Yeming's waist was torn at this moment. He rolled on the ground, revealing some hidden parts. Why are these people so detestable? Feng Qier turned her head and frowned, her face full of disgust. Seeing this, Su Yi used his foot to lift Feng Yeming's robe, covering the hidden part. Little, who are you? What enmity do you have with my Blood Dragon sect? Feng Yeming's expression was trembling. Intense pain assaulted his nerves, but he still gritted his teeth and asked Su Yi. It was only now that he thought of asking this question. Previously, Su Yi had interrupted his plans, causing him to fly into a rage. He wanted to kill this young man, but he didn't expect that he would fail miserably and become a prisoner. I don't want to talk too much nonsense. Tell me, where are those people from the Jade Tripod Alchemy clan? I can consider sparing your life. Su Yi stood beside Feng Yeming and did not answer his question. Instead, he lowered his head and asked, Jade Tripod Alchemy sect? Feng Yi was clearly stunned. Then, his gaze evaded as he said, I don't know anyone from the Jade Tripod Alchemy clan. I'm afraid you've found the wrong person. You still dare to be dishonest? Su Xiaoshui immediately frowned, and was about to spit out flames towards Feng Yeming, but was pulled back by Su Yi. But just at this moment, Feng Yeming felt some of the power coming from little handsome Su's body, and his expression became even more cold. Only now did he notice the little bird, but he didn't expect it to carry such a terrifying pressure. It doesn't matter if you don't tell me the truth. I have plenty of ways to make you talk. Su Yi waved his hand and said to Feng Qier, do you have any means to make him talk? Feng Qier glanced at Feng Yeming and thought for a moment before saying, I'll try. As she spoke, she slowly walked to Feng Yeming's side, her face full of disgust. A slender hand slowly stretched out, and wisps of black aura spread out from this jade-white palm. Like poisonous snakes spitting out their tongues, they slowly drilled into Feng Yeming's body. Feng Yeming immediately screamed miserably. Waves of black aura swam around his body, and his veins bulged. The terrifying pain caused his face to deform. Under the effect of the poisonous gas, Feng Yeming kept rolling on the ground. Mud and grass stained his body, and his robes scattered again. Feng Qier frowned and turned around, no longer looking. Ah, the miserable screams pierced through the clouds and cracked rocks, drifting through the forest and startling countless birds. Sui was not in a hurry. He just quietly watched Feng Yeming wail. I'll give you one more chance. Are you going to tell me or not? After a long while, he finally opened his mouth and asked softly. It was a fact that a few Origin Emperors had escaped from the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect, and Feng Yeming had suddenly broken through to the Origin Emperor realm not long ago. There must be a connection between them. Speak. I'll speak. Feng Yeming screamed, hugging his head and howling in pain. It had to be said that the power of Feng Qi-er's Calamity Qi Poison Soul was too terrifying. Even an Origin Emperor realm cultivator would find it difficult to withstand it when his strength was restricted. This kind of poison was not only effective on the body, but also on the soul. All right. Sui nodded, indicating for Feng Qi-er to expel the poison. Feng Qi-er did not even turn around. She only pinched her fingers a few times, and wisps of black aura emerged from Feng Yeming's body and finally dissipated. I'll speak. Feng Yeming took a few deep breaths and said, Consecrator Kai found a place in the mountains not far away. He wants to open up that place as his future sect. He's there right now. Consecrator Kai? Sui raised his eyebrows. This Consecrator Kai was probably a certain Origin Emperor realm elder of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect. It seemed that the other party had also become a consecrator of the Blood Dragon sect. It seemed that he wanted to establish a new sect. Sui could understand this. In the Chaos region, establishing a faction and becoming an itinerant cultivator were two completely different situations. There were also many benefits to becoming a consecrator of the Blood Dragon sect. At the very least, this sect would be completely under their control. Moreover, they would not need to deal with many troublesome matters and would rarely appear. They would not be easily discovered by the Bawang sect. It could be said that the people of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect had a good plan. What about the others? Sui asked again. There was more than one elder who had escaped from the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect, but Sui did not know the exact number. There's also Consecrator Qi and Consecrator Chao. The two of them left the Red Dragon Ridge a few days ago. They said that they were going to investigate some secret realm. Feng Yeming said again. Investigate the secret realm? Sui understood that this secret realm was very likely the one that the 9 great forces had discovered. Those people had also received the news. Other than the 3 of them, is there anyone else? Sui asked again. No, no more. Feng Yeming shook his head and looked at Sui, his eyes filled with fear. Looks like it's just these 3 people. Sui nodded. He reckoned that Feng Yeming would not dare to lie at this moment. 3 Origin Emperor realm experts had escaped from the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect, but they were not in the same place. He did not know who had the resources of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect, or if all 3 of them had them. Take me to your Consecrator Kai. Otherwise, I will make you die a horrible death. Sui's gaze flashed like lightning as he stared at Feng Yeming. Feng Yeming did not dare to refuse. He had tasted the terror of the poisonous gas just now. Chapter 1260. The place where Consecrator Kai was located wasn't particularly far, but it wasn't close either. With Man Bao's speed, it took him nearly 4 hours to reach a mountain range. This mountain range was very remote and very few people went there. However, the spiritual energy was considered abundant and was slightly better than the Red Dragon Ridge. Boss, I can already sense the fluctuations of the Origin Emperor realm. It should be where that old fellow is. As soon as he arrived, Su Xiaoshui whispered into Su Yi's ear. Very good. Su Yi nodded. Su Xiaoshui's soul force was much stronger than his. After all, his cultivation was there, and he had the Phoenix bloodline. He threw Feng Yeming onto the ground and was about to look for Elder Kai, but he didn't expect Feng Yeming to speak again. You said you wouldn't kill me. Let me go. Feng Yeming was terrified as he begged. You reminded me. Su Yi smiled lightly and shot out a finger light that suddenly struck Feng Yeming's lower abdomen. With a piu sound, accompanied by a strong surge of essence qi, the energy in Feng Yeming's body evaporated like water vapor, and gradually dissipated. Ah! He screamed again. He knew that his sea of qi had been crippled and his origin emperor realm cultivation was gone. His heart was filled with panic. He had clearly hidden the benefits given by the experts of the Jade Tripod Alchemy clan and had just broken through to the Origin Emperor realm. He didn't expect that he would cause such a huge disaster because of this. If he lost his cultivation in the Chaos domain, the only path left for him was death. I said I wouldn't kill you, but I didn't say I wouldn't cripple you. Su Yi glanced at Feng Yeming indifferently and didn't stay any longer. He immediately rode on Manbao, brought Feng Qier and Su Xiaoshui, and quickly rushed into the mountain range. Su Xiaoshui followed the situation with his soul force and found out that Elder Kai was cultivating in a cave not far away. The few of them walked through the mountain range. Not long after, they landed in front of a mountain peak. Boss, that old thing shouldn't be weak. Leave it to me to deal with him, Su Xiaoshui said. Seeing Su Yi nod, his entire body instantly surged with spirit energy, spreading out like a wave in the air. Whoosh! Soon, a figure shot out from the cave. Who are you? Why have you come to this old man's place of seclusion? The person couldn't help but ask when he saw Su Yi and Feng Qier. This was an old man in his 60s. His hair and beard were pitch black, and he seemed to be in high spirits. When he sensed handsome Su's aura, he couldn't help but tremble. That little bird was too familiar to him. Wasn't it the phoenix that accompanied the sect leader of the Bawang sect, Su Yi? As expected, just as the old man felt that something was wrong, he heard the young man opposite him speak. Old man, you should know me, right? The young man's face wriggled and slowly changed into the appearance of a 17 or 18-year-old boy. Su-Yi. The old man's face was filled with boundless fear. He kept pointing at the young man with his trembling finger. How could he not recognize this young man? He was none other than the young sect leader of the Bawang sect, Su-Yi. Run. The old man didn't need to think at all. He instantly turned around, his primordial qi circulating wildly, and used his movement skill to shoot into the distance. He knew very well that Su Yi had found this place. If he didn't run now, only death would await him. Seeing the old man like this, Su Yi was very sure that this person must be Elder Kai. Old man, do you think you can run away? Handsome Su curled his lips in disdain. He flapped his wings, and his body streaked across the sky like lightning. In just a breath's time, before the old man could run more than 100 feet, Handsome Su intercepted him in front of him. At the same time, Handsome Su lifted one of his wings and suddenly flapped it out. Whoosh! A terrifying gust of wind swept across like a frightening guillotine and suddenly slammed into the old man's body. Puff! The old man activated his primordial qi to form a strong defense, but it was still destroyed by the wind blade. It disintegrated instantly and blood spurted out. With the great force, the old man's body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. He flew in the direction of Su Yi and Feng Qier. He was at the 6th level of the Origin Royal Realm, but in front of Handsome Su, he was still vulnerable. In a moment, the old man's face changed, and a sharp and cold aura climbed up his face. His eyes were like knives. Using the force of flying backward, he forcefully turned his body and pounced on Su Yi. Young man, give me your life, the old man said coldly. Since he was no match for the phoenix, he would capture Su Yi. No matter how strong this young man was, he was only at the Origin Void Realm. It would be easy to take him down. As he spoke, he raised his hand and shot out a ray of light. It was like an iron chain that swept across the sky and rolled toward Su Yi. As long as he took down this young man, he would be able to keep his life today. Old man, you think you can fight my boss? However, at this moment, Handsome Sue's voice sounded again. With a whoosh, a blazing aura swept out from behind him. The bright light of the fire illuminated the void, turning it crimson. Then, the flames spread and instantly burned the old man's back. A scream pierced into the sky and pierced through the diaphragm. The old man was attacked by the flames, and the chi in his body instantly became chaotic. The ribbon in his hand could no longer maintain its form. Just as it was about to descend in front of Sui, it directly collapsed. His body rolled in the void, and he howled in pain. The smell of burnt flesh spread out. It was the smell of flesh and blood, and it was very strong. Little Handsome, take it easy. Don't burn him to death. Seeing this situation, Sui, who was standing in the same place, did not move. However, he shouted anxiously. What a joke! It was not easy to find this old man, and the whereabouts of the Jade Tripod Alchemy Sect's treasures had not been found. If Handsome Sue was not careful and burned him to ashes, the loss would be great. Boss, don't worry. I know what I'm doing, Handsome Sue said. Then, the flames that filled the sky disappeared, and the surging hot air also dissipated. In the end, Handsome Sue's claws fell and grabbed the old man's back, bringing him in front of Sui. A restriction was cast, imprisoning all the power in the old man's body. Hee, Sui immediately laughed when he saw this. He looked at the old man as if he was looking at a big treasure. He did not know how many benefits he had. He asked Handsome Sue to throw the old man on the ground. Then, he searched his body and quickly found a space bag. It seems that it will take some effort to open this thing. Looking at the space bag in his hand, Sui muttered. Since he had already obtained the item, he was not in a hurry. Instead, he began to interrogate the old man. As a 6th-level Origin Emperor Realm expert, Elder Kai was very tough. After being captured by Sui, he actually changed his weak state. No matter what questions Sui asked, he would not speak. Chapter 1261. Once again, he asked Feng Qi to make a move and use the power of the Calamity Aura to force Elder Kai to attack. However, an existence at the 6th level of the Origin Emperor realm was not something that a coward like Feng Yiming could compare to. Even though he was enduring endless pain, Elder Kai still gritted his teeth and did not speak. After all, Feng Qi's cultivation was still weak, so she could not do anything to this old man for the time being. Your bones are quite tough. Let me do it. Su Xiaoshui snorted coldly and began to spit out flames, starting from the soles of Elder Kai's feet. This was the true fire of the phoenix. It was different from ordinary flames. It could burn all the way through one's flesh and meridians and into the depths of one's soul. To Elder Kai, this was even more painful than being tortured. As expected, he did not persist for long before he revealed Su Yi's questions one by one. From his mouth, Su Yi and the others knew that there were indeed a total of 3 Origin Emperors who survived the Jade Tripod Alchemy Sect. The place where the other 2 went was indeed where the legendary mystic realm was. However, after the Jade Tripod Alchemy Sect was destroyed, they hid everywhere, afraid that they would be found by the Bawang sect, so they would not appear openly. Their goal of hiding in the Crimson Dragon Ridge was just as Su Yi had guessed. They wanted to support a puppet force and wait for it to grow stronger so that they could gradually establish a foothold in the Chaos region in the future. Of course, they were afraid of the Bawang sect. Therefore, they planned to wait until the Blood Dragon sect developed and find a better place to stay. Or, they could bring the Blood Dragon sect to join one of the 3 first-rate forces. So these 3 old fellows don't trust each other that much. They actually each took away the treasures of the Jade Tripod Alchemy Sect. According to the results of Su Yi's interrogation, the benefits of the Jade Tripod Alchemy Sect had been plundered and were carried by the 3 of them. Elder Kai was at the 6th level of the Origin Emperor realm, while Elder Qi and Elder Chao were at the 7th and 8th level of the Origin Emperor realm respectively. They were all rare experts. Therefore, the benefits that the three of them took were also different. Relatively speaking, there were not many things in Elder Kai's space bag, and more were on the two of them. There's no use in keeping this old thing. Kill him. In the end, handsome Su said to Sui. Let's imprison him in the mysterious space first. What if he comes in handy in the future? Sui said. Under Sui's watch, he summoned the mysterious dimension and placed Elder Kai inside. At the same time, Sui used the power of the mysterious dimension to open the portal bag. Come, let's see what's inside. With excitement, Sui walked out of the mysterious space and sat down on the ground. He poured out many things from his space bag and piled them up on the ground. I'm rich, rich, rich. Looking at the pile of things in front of him, Sui smiled from ear to ear like a blooming flower. Wow, are these all Tao artifacts? Feng Qi also widened her eyes and blinked. She picked up a long sword on the ground and waved it gently. When she poured her prenatal qi into it, a light wave spread out. At the same time, she could hear the roars of wind and thunder beasts. This was a Tao artifact, and it was very rare. For ordinary martial artists of third-rate forces, only those at the Origin Emperor realm had the chance to possess it. For example, the young sect master of the Gimdeo sect, Yang Chuan, only had a damaged golden scale blazing sky bow in his hand. This was because the Gimdeo sect was a vassal of the Tiangang sect and was bestowed by the Tiangang sect. However, now, among the pile of things on the ground, there were more than a dozen Tao artifacts as far as the eye could see. They were mainly sabers and swords, and there was also a long spear and a large halberd. It had to be said that as a second-rate force, the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect's foundation was really strong. If the other two people also had more than 10 or 20 Tao artifacts, then there would be dozens of them in total. There are so many spiritual herbs. So many star-grade ones. Sui flipped through the items on the ground and picked up a spiritual herb that looked like tender grass to observe. This thing looked inconspicuous, but it had a strong energy fluctuation. It was a star grade. Yellow grade, there's actually a yellow grade. Soon, he saw 3 more yellow grade spiritual herbs, which made Sui ecstatic. Yellow grade spiritual herbs were already very rare. When refining some high-grade medicinal pills, they could play a huge role. This thing could indeed be used as a foundation. Who knew when it would be of great use? I'm rich, I'm rich. Sui kept rubbing his hands. His eyes were glowing with green light, and he was extremely excited. Other than more than a dozen Tao artifacts and high-grade spiritual herbs, there were also a lot of Xian weapons and spirit weapons. There were also Qin-grade and Moon-grade spiritual herbs that were piled up like a small mountain. This was indeed a part of the foundation of a second-rate sect. It was definitely much richer than a third-rate force. However, Sui was slightly disappointed that there were no magic artifacts here. Back then, when he fought with Luo Qing and Lu Yinghong, the weapons in their hands were indeed magic artifacts. However, they were all damaged in the battle and were almost reduced to scrap. They were of no value. In addition, the jade cauldron that his eldest brother, Merciless West, had obtained from Qiao Sanjia outside the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect was also a magic artifact. Feng Qi, what weapon do you want? Pick whatever you want. Sui waved his hand and said heroically. Feng Qi covered her mouth and laughed coquettishly. Then, she shook her head and said, It's enough for me to have the soul-nurturing pearl. I'll slowly refine it in the future. It shouldn't be inferior to a magic artifact. Sui nodded. He also knew the uniqueness of the soul-nurturing pearl. The other two people are much stronger. They should have more good things on them. Sui's eyes gradually lit up. Thinking of the remaining 2 experts of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect who had escaped, he could not help but smile. He put away all the things on the ground and put them into the space bag. Sui saw that there were still a large number of prenatal stones in the space bag. There were 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star prenatal stones. The exact number could not be calculated at the moment, but it was definitely not a small number. If converted to 1-star prenatal stones, it would probably be no less than a few billion. With so many prenatal stones, Sui immediately had the aura of a nouveau riche. Although the Bawang sect had mined the mineral deposits and obtained a large number of prenatal stones, which were many times more than the ones in the space bag, Sui did not handle those prenatal stones. He gave them all to Wang Zhengquan for the development of the Bawang sect. I must find the other two as soon as possible and exploit them properly. Sui chuckled nonstop and muttered to himself, I'm really looking forward to it. If he could obtain all the resources of the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect, it would definitely be a windfall. Not to mention other things, just the dozens of magic artifacts could be equipped in the hands of the many experts of the Bawang sect, increasing their overall strength by a level. Chapter 1262. Boss, let's get going. Who knows, we might bump into those two near the secret realm. Handsome Su said. Sui nodded. That was exactly what he was thinking. After changing his appearance, Sui led Handsome Su and Feng Qi on the barbarian leopard and continued their journey. Handsome Su also changed his temperament with Feng Qi's help to prevent others from recognizing him. The Chaos Realm was huge. Its overall size was no less than any of the 6 continents and 1 ocean. Sui and the rest continued their journey towards the northwest. This time their speed was much faster. The barbarian leopard was traveling at top speed and would occasionally take a break. After all, the barbarian leopard was only in the demon spirit realm and didn't have a lot of stamina. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 20 days had passed. It had been almost a month since Sui left the Bawang sect. If there's a teleportation gate, it would be much more convenient to travel. Sui thought of the teleportation gate. This kind of thing could be seen in the big cities of the central continent, but it was very rare in the Chaos Realm. It seemed that this had a lot to do with the structure of the Chaos Realm. After all, the Chaos Realm was extremely chaotic. Killing and fighting were everywhere. Even the 3 first-rate forces weren't peaceful. Therefore, there wasn't much communication between them. Of course, there should be teleportation gates in some of the big cities under the 3 first-rate forces. After all, those things could bring in a huge amount of income. Anyone who used them would have to pay a hefty fee. Ordinary rogue cultivators couldn't afford to use them. Therefore, the most common way to travel in the Chaos Realm was to circulate Yuan Qi or ride a barbarian beast. However, there were very few people who had the ability to subdue a barbarian beast. Along the way, Sui and the rest met many rogue cultivators. However, they didn't have any interactions with each other. When they saw Sui and the rest riding on the barbarian leopard, many rogue cultivators became very cautious. No one dared to provoke them. In addition, they also passed by the territories of some small forces. However, most of them were unranked forces. I wonder how long it will take to reach the secret realm. Sui muttered to himself. He didn't know much about the Chaos Realm. He was just going in the general direction. Not long after, when the group passed by a barbaric beast's territory, Sui had subdued a scarlet blaze lion. Its cultivation had reached the middle level of the Yaotian realm. Since then, Barbarian Bao had been placed in the mysterious space by Sui, and he rode on the scarlet blaze lion instead. Time was like a fleeting shadow, passing by in a hurry. His cultivation base was quietly cultivated, and in the blink of an eye, another month had passed. Boss, aren't we almost there? We're meeting more and more people now. Hearing this, Sui slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He ordered the red blaze lion to slow down and began to survey the surroundings. Not far away from them, there were indeed some figures that were currently resting. Su-yi wasn't surprised. Just as Handsome Su had said, they had been meeting more and more people in the past 2 days. I guess we're almost there. It's time to ask around so we don't go astray. Su-yi thought for a moment and said. He wasn't sure if they were going astray. After all, the Chaos Realm was too big. If they went astray, it would be a huge mistake. With this thought in mind, Su-yi found a place to stop and started cooking. When they passed by the barbarian beast territory, he killed a few barbarian beasts that attacked them and put them in his interspatial bag. In the distance, the group of people saw Su-yi and the others. They were cautious at first, but when they saw Su-yi and Feng Qi'er getting busy, they were puzzled. Seeing that he could eat meat again, little Handsome Su stood on Su-yi's shoulder and was so excited that he wanted to howl. However, under Su-yi's command, he kept his mouth shut and didn't say a word. His eyes, however, were shining with a green light. After a long time, Su-yi and Feng Qi'er sat on 2 rocks, roasting meat and stewing soup. The aroma lingered in the forest. Let's eat. Su-yi hadn't eaten meat for more than a month, so he couldn't help but feel hungry. After giving Handsome Su, Feng Qi'er, and the barbarian beast stew to roast meat and stew, he also started eating. He cut off pieces of roasted meat with his sharp knife and put them into his mouth. The rich aroma wafted in the air, whetting everyone's appetite. They ate with relish, especially Handsome Su, who wanted to swallow his tongue as well. As for the barbarian beast stew, it was the first time it had eaten Su-yi's roasted meat, so its eyes lit up. However, just as they were enjoying their meal, Su-yi caught a glimpse of a young man running over from the crowd in the distance. As he ran, his throat moved. "Little brother, I wonder if I can get a piece of meat to eat?" The young man ran to Su-yi's side and opened his mouth to speak. He had a mischievous smile on his face, and was not reserved at all. Su-yi smiled and cut off an entire leg with his sharp sword. He threw it to the young man without saying anything. Thank you, thank you." The young man took the roasted meat and thanked Su-yi repeatedly. His eyes were bright and he was very happy. After that, he ran back with the roasted meat. Su-yi clearly saw that among the people who came with the young man, there were a few older people who were frowning. They looked worried as if they had a headache because of the young man. Those people seemed to be from the mysterious Frost sect. Su-yi said softly to Feng Qi'er and Handsome Su as he ate the meat. At the Alliance Conference, he had seen many third-rate forces compete. Among them was the mysterious Frost sect. Su-yi still had an impression of them. However, on the whole, the younger generation of the mysterious Frost sect was not very strong. Compared to the Xianjian sect and the Liuhe sect, they were far from the top 10. It was also because he knew the other party's background that Su-yi did not refuse the other party's request for meat. In addition, he was now in disguise and Handsome Su had changed his temperament, so the young man did not recognize them. But it seems that the mysterious Frost sect is not weak. Handsome Su said vaguely as he chewed. Under his perception, the strength of this group of people could not be concealed, and all of them were spied upon by him. Su-yi nodded. There were more than 10 people from the mysterious Frost sect present this time. There were 5 old people, 3 middle-aged people, and 4 young people around 30 years old. Chapter 1263. Apart from the old man and the middle-aged man, the remaining 4 young people had decent strength. Almost all of them were at the advanced stage of Yuanzhen. Su-yi estimated that not all of the mysterious Frost sect's powerful experts were here. They should only be a part of them. He did not pay much attention to them. He continued to eat the barbecued meat and then began to serve the thick meat soup. He blew on the surface of the soup and took a sip. He let out a satisfied sigh. Feng Qi'er, Handsome Su, and the Scarlet Flame Lion all had greasy mouth. They looked happy. On the other side, there seemed to be a small dispute between the people from the mysterious Frost sect. After the young man brought the huge beast leg meat back, he cut it into more than 10 pieces with a knife. He wanted to give everyone a share. However, most of them did not take it. There were even 2 old men who pointed at the young man's nose as if they were criticizing him. However, the young man kept smiling. He did not care about the elders scolding at all. He continued to eat the beast meat. The others held the meat in their hands. They did not know whether to eat it or not. Eat it, eat it. If someone poisons you to death, I won't even bury you. And Niu Qingshan, if he dies, throw him into the barbaric beast's territory. A white-haired old man waved his hand angrily, and said to the other 3 young men who were holding the barbecued meat in their hands. The Niu Qingshan he was talking about was the young man who asked Su Yi for meat. The 3 young men were suspicious. They stared at Niu Qingshan for a long time and realized that he did not show any symptoms after eating the meat. After a long time, they began to eat the meat. As the fragrance of the meat spread in their mouths, they did not care about their image at all. They ate heartily and nodded because the meat was just too fragrant. The few elders from the mysterious Frost sect were so angry that their noses were almost crooked. They rolled their eyes at Niu Qingshan. As the chief disciple of the sect, the entire younger generation in the sect had been led astray by this guy. Meanwhile, Niu Qingshan was eating the beast meat like a whirlwind. It made the elders' heads hurt. However, after a long time, when Niu Qingshan and the other young men finished eating, everything was normal. The elders were relieved. Looking at the 2 people and 2 beasts who were still drinking soup in the distance, the people of the mysterious Frost sect had an indescribable strange feeling in their hearts. Elder Gao, don't be angry. When I'm done with this, I'll definitely brew your favorite purple mist cloud tea for you. Niu Qingshan finished eating and went to the white-haired old man's side with a grin. The old man's anger dissipated when he heard the words purple mist cloud tea. However, he still glared at Niu Qingshan. The other elders did not say anything. Niu Qingshan's ability to please people was well known in the mysterious Frost sect. Every elder and guardian in the sect liked this kid very much. Elders, I'll go and thank that little brother again, Niu Qingshan said and then ran towards Su Yi and the rest. Elder Gao, who was standing behind him, thought for a moment before following him. In reality, most of the people present knew one thing. Although Niu Qingshan was frivolous, he was not stupid. He dared to ask for meat from the young man over there, so he had a way to determine if the other party would harm him. At the end of the day, they were too nervous. However, they had to be careful when walking in the chaos territory. After all, the human heart was sinister, and the world was unpredictable. I had such a good meal. On Su Yi's side, Handsome Su rubbed his round belly after eating and said. However, his voice was very soft, and only the few of them could hear him. Su Yi put down his big bowl and glanced over. He saw the young man and an old man coming together. They soon arrived in front of him. Little brother, thank you for the barbecue. I have to say that your cooking skills are amazing. Niu Qingshan stood in front of Su Yi and gave him a thumbs up. He said with an exaggerated expression and licked his lips at the same time. Of course, my cooking skills have been passed down from 10 generations of ancestors. Su Yi smiled faintly and spouted nonsense with a straight face. I'm Gaotsang, an elder of the mysterious Frost sect. How should I address you, little brother? At that moment, the old man who came with Niu Qingshan spoke. He took a good look at Su Yi. He had a feeling that this young man was not simple. Whether it was his attire or the aura on his body, he vaguely revealed a hidden sharpness. I'm Fengyun. This is my sister, Feng Qi'er. Su Yi cupped his fists and answered. Fengyun, Elder Gaotsang frowned. He thought about the names of the famous young powerhouses in the Chaos Territory, but he could not match them. From what he could sense, Fengyun's cultivation base was at the advanced stage of Yuan Zhen stage. He was almost at the 8th or 9th stage of Yuan Zhen stage. Although he tried to hide it, he could not escape from Elder Gao's prying. Gao Tsong couldn't help but guess that Feng Yun and Feng Qi were disciples of a third-rate force or even a second-rate force, since they had such a cultivation base at such a young age and the demon True Realm's Scarlet Blaze Lion as their mount. "I'm Niu Qingshan. I'll call you Brother Feng Yun from now on." Niu Qingshan stepped forward and grinned. He seemed to be very familiar with Sui. Sui shrugged at the guy who was so friendly. However, he still said with a smile, "Sure. I'll call you Brother Niu then." Unexpectedly, Niu Qingshan waved his hand and said, "Brother Niu sounds terrible. Just call me Brother Qingshan." Sui touched his nose. He did not continue the conversation this time. After a few simple exchanges, they were indeed more familiar with each other. Elder Gao Tsong was initially quite wary of Sui, but he slowly let his guard down. Sui, on the other hand, began to inquire about the mystic realm. Just as he had guessed, the place where the secret realm had appeared was not too far from here. However, the area was already under the control of 3 first-rate forces and 6 second-rate forces. It was not an easy task for many third-rate forces to get involved in it. For the sake of the secret realm, the 9 major organizations had sealed off a large area. It was difficult for small organizations and rogue cultivators to set foot inside. Actually, it's not that we can't sneak in. It's just that even if we do, it'll be difficult for us to find traces of the secret realm. We might even be discovered by the 9 major organizations and get ourselves killed. Elder Gao Tsong said. Sui nodded to show that he understood. The 3 first-rate organizations and 6 second-rate organizations definitely wanted to control the secret realm completely. They must have sent a large number of powerhouses. As for the small organizations and rogue cultivators, they dared not simply barge in. Otherwise, they would be targeted. Chapter 1264. Many people in the Chaos Territory had received the news that a new mystic realm had appeared, especially the true powerhouses. For some desperados, they might be able to obtain information about the mystic realm as soon as possible if they sneaked into the cracks of the 9 great forces. From there, they would have the opportunity to obtain benefits as soon as possible. Therefore, Sui felt that there must be many small forces or itinerant cultivators who had entered the sealed area of the 9 great forces. Does this mystic realm really exist? I wonder how much information the 9 great forces have grasped. Sui frowned and muttered to himself. His information was still the same as what the people from the Green Cloud Palace had said a few months ago. After these few months, there shouldn't have been no progress at all. That's hard to say. They definitely have more information than us, but no one leaked it easily. However, there are also some pieces of information that have spread. It's said that after the discovery of the mystic realm a few months ago, there have been a few more movements in the past few months. However, the few great forces still haven't locked onto its tracks. Elder Gao thought for a moment and said to Sui, "What we can be sure of now is that the movements in this mystic realm are becoming more and more frequent. Moreover, the energy that is seeping out from it is very dense. It's definitely a very powerful mystic realm. I heard that it's much more mysterious than when the Great Spirit mystic realm was first discovered." Sui fell into deep thought. What Elder Gao said should not be a secret. Even the many cultivators in the periphery should know about it. He was extremely interested. A mystic realm that was difficult to track was different from an ordinary place. At the very least, most mystic realms could only be said to be difficult to enter. However, it was not like this mystic realm that seemed to know how to escape. "Brother Fengyun, what are your plans? Why don't you stay at the mysterious Frost sect for a while? Niu Qingshan suddenly broadcasted and said to Su Yi. The mysterious Frost sect was not far from here, so they sent out most of the powerhouses in the sect to investigate the situation. However, after a long time they still found nothing. There's no need, Brother Qingshan. I'm going to walk around the periphery. What if the mystic realm completely appears? Su Yi shook his head and said. After obtaining the general information, Su Yi's current objective was somewhat achieved. In fact, he didn't plan to take a stroll in the periphery. No matter what, he wanted to go to the sealed area of the 9 great forces. There were many loose cultivators and people from small forces gathered in the periphery, but if they wanted to obtain the most useful information, they had to enter the core area. Other than inquiring about the situation of the mystic realm, what he was most concerned about right now was the other 2 people from the Jade Tripod Alchemy sect. He had to find them. If that's the case, why don't you come with us? We can take care of each other, Niu Qingshan said again. Su Yi thought about it and did not refuse. He was not in a hurry these few days, so it was not a bad choice to stay with the people of the mysterious Frost sect for the time being. At the very least, there would be someone to lead the way. Everything could wait until he was familiar with the surrounding environment. Just like that, he brought Feng Qi'er, Handsome Su, and the Red Blaze Lion to join the mysterious Frost sect's team. Elder Gao Tsang and the other elders of the mysterious Frost sect did not say much about the addition of these 2 people and 2 beasts. After all, this young man's strength was not enough to threaten them. Of course, they did not know the true identities of Su Yi and the others. Otherwise, they would not be so calm. I wonder when the mystic realm will truly appear. Su Yi and the people of the mysterious Frost sect began to wander around the nearby area. It looked no different from wandering around. They also encountered many small forces and loose cultivators. Almost all of them were here to try their luck. The place where the mystic realm appeared before was sealed, but this did not mean that it was impossible for it to appear in the periphery. If they were lucky enough to encounter it, they would have the chance to be the first to benefit. There are many loose cultivators and small forces around here. Some of them are very powerful and not to be trifled with. Even among the loose cultivators, there are extremely powerful people. Niu Qingshan said to Su Yi as he walked casually. Su Yi nodded when he heard that. He agreed with that. There were too many loose cultivators in the Chaos territory, and there was no lack of terrifying people among them. During the Alliance conference, there were some obscure auras in the crowd in the square that could not be underestimated. However, Su Yi was not worried about that now that they were in the periphery. This was because the true powerhouses definitely had a way to enter the seal of the 9 great forces. They rarely stayed in the periphery. The group of people walked around aimlessly, rarely interacting with other people. Among the people, Niu Qingshan was relatively more restless. His eyes were bright as he patrolled around. From time to time, he would kill a few big birds for Su Yi to roast and eat. Su Yi could tell that this guy was a complete foodie. The main reason why he was so enthusiastic about him was because of his skills in roasting meat and stewing soup. When he was cooking, Niu Qingshan had been watching carefully from the side. He even licked his lips. It was obvious that he wanted to learn how to cook. Su Yi only smiled softly at that. He did not care at all. How much Niu Qingshan could learn depended on his ability. However, speaking of which, the meat of wild beasts that had not gained intelligence did not taste good. Relatively speaking, it was far less delicious than the meat of wild beasts that had cultivated. However, looking at Niu Qingshan, he was eating with relish. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, Su Yi and the people from the mysterious Frost sect had been strolling around for 7 to 8 days. It was also on this day that all the rogue cultivators and small forces active in the mountains and forests suddenly became excited, as if they had eaten a great tonic. At the same time, a piece of news began to spread among everyone with an unstoppable momentum. There's movement in the mystic realm again. It's at the swamp. Go and take a look. Such a piece of news made countless people extremely excited. A large number of independent cultivators and people from small forces rushed in the same direction. It actually appeared at the swamp. That place is not within the range of the 9 great forces seal. In the mysterious frost sect, Elder Gao Tsang muttered to himself with a fervent look on his face. Su-yi understood when he heard that. Since it was not within the range of those forces seal, it was the best opportunity for many small forces and loose cultivators. Let's go quickly too, Su-yi called out. Then, under the lead of the people from the mysterious frost sect, they walked in a direction. Through everyone's information, Su-yi knew that there was a swamp not far away. Very few people would step foot on it. After all, most loose cultivators and people from small forces would consume a lot of vitality to fly. Chapter 1265. Su-yi and the people from the mysterious frost sect did not waste any time and left quickly. The swamp was not far away, but it was not very close either. According to the speed of an ordinary high-level Yuan Zhen martial artist, it would take about 3 to 4 days to travel at full speed. However, Su-yi was riding on the Scarlet Flame Lion, so his speed was doubled. In addition, apart from a few young disciples, the rest of the people from the mysterious frost sect were focused on the Origin Void stage. Therefore, they arrived at the swamp in less than 2 days. Along the way, they encountered many rogue cultivators, but there was still no interaction between them. However, it was not very peaceful along the way. The word chaos in the chaos territory was vividly displayed when there were many people. One could often see people attacking and killing each other. All of this was because there were no restrictions. Everyone, let's split up and investigate the situation. When they arrived at the swamp, Su-yi cupped his hands and said to Elder Gao Tsang, Niu Qinshan, and the rest from the mysterious frost sect, "All right. Goodbye, little brother." Elder Gao Tsang did not ask him to stay. He also cupped his hands and said, Niu Qinshan wanted to say something, but when he heard Elder Gao's words, he could not help but smile bitterly. Then, he bid farewell to Su-yi and the rest. "Goodbye." Su-yi nodded. He was about to turn around and leave with handsome Su, Feng Qier, and the Scarlet Flame Lion. However, at that moment, a sharp laughter suddenly rang in everyone's ears, causing Su-yi and the rest to stop in their tracks. The people from the mysterious frost sect also stopped in their tracks. Heh! I was wondering who it was. So, it's the bunch of good-for-nothings from the mysterious frost sect. Opposite Su-yi, a group of people walked over slowly. The leader was a fat old man with big ears. He laughed sinisterly and blocked Su-yi's path. At the same time, the fat old man's gaze finally landed on Gao Tsang and the rest from the mysterious frost sect. Chai Jian, I advise you to learn more about verbal insult. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death. Elder Gao Tsang's face darkened when he heard that, and he replied. The rest of the people from the mysterious frost sect also glared at the fat old man and the others coldly. So you're from the Blue Fire sect? Su-yi didn't make a sound. He stood there without moving, but his eyebrows twitched. He was even more familiar with the people who were walking over because the Jade Fire sect had obtained one of the 10 spots in the Alliance Conference. In the end, 20 disciples had entered the secret realm of Ominous Spirit. They could be said to be very powerful. From the looks of it, there seemed to be some conflict between Mysterious Frost sect and Jade Fire sect. However, Su-yi didn't intend to get involved in this matter. Even handsome Su and Feng Qier, who were on his shoulder, remained silent. Little brother, you should leave first. This has nothing to do with you. Elder Gao Tsang said as he looked at Su-yi and the others. Up until now, he was more or less certain that this young man was definitely not from some second-rate force, and his background was at most a third-rate force. Otherwise, there was no need for him to mingle in the outer area. However, this was a matter between the mysterious Frost sect and the Blue Fire sect. He didn't want this young man to get involved. After getting along with him for the past few days, he felt that this young man was quite nice. However, just as he finished speaking, the fat old man from the Blue Fire sect stretched out his hand and slightly blocked Su Yi's way of leaving. He sneered and said, "This kid looks unfamiliar. He doesn't seem to be from the mysterious Frost sect, but his cultivation is quite good. Chai Jian, if you have any problems with the Blue Fire sect, just come at us. Don't think that the mysterious Frost sect is afraid of you." As Elder Gaotsong spoke, he suddenly drew out a long saber. A cold light burst out and a cold air swirled. Clang, clang, clang. As soon as he moved, the rest of the people from the mysterious Frost sect also drew out their sabers and swords. They were all ready to attack at any time. Their eyes were filled with intense hatred as they stared at the people of the Blue Fire sect. "What are you nervous about?" The old man from the Blue Fire sect called Chai Jian sneered. He looked at Su Yi and then glanced at Elder Gaotsong. He laughed strangely and said, "Gaotsong, why are you so nervous about this little bastard? Is he a bastard you gave birth to outside? He looks very handsome, but unfortunately, he doesn't look like you at all." Ha 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 ha. As Chai Jian's words spread, all the people from the Blue Fire sect laughed. Everyone was swaying back and forth in an exaggerated manner. Sui heard all these words, and his face was so dark that it looked like it was about to drip water. The aura on his body fluctuated and spread out for no reason. The Origin Supreme technique was activated, and a brazen pressure suddenly appeared, making everyone's heart skip a beat. "Boss, I'm going to tear this old dog apart," Su Xiaoshui said to Su Yi through voice transmission, and a murderous intent spread out. However, Su Yi gave Su Xiaoshui a look, indicating that he should not act rashly. He also suppressed his restless emotions and slowly withdrew the Origin Supreme technique. The pressure in the air dissipated, making the others feel as if it was just an illusion. Su Yi did not intend to make a move now. Otherwise, his identity would be exposed, which would be disadvantageous to his next move. "Chai Jian, don't slander me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Gaotsong's face was also very ugly, and the veins on his forehead were bulging. "Oh. I also want to know what ability your mysterious Frost sect has to dare say such words to my Blue Fire sect." Chai Jian's mouth twitched and he sneered. At this moment, a very fat young man behind him walked forward and pointed at Su Yi. "Elder Chai, look, that kid has a little bird with him. Is he trying to impersonate the great conqueror Su Yi?" As soon as these words came out, many people became interested. Su Yi, the sect leader of the Bawang sect, was known by everyone in the Chaos territory. The little bird beside him also had an extraordinary origin, and many people took delight in talking about it. However, just based on the appearance of the legends, it was very different from the two people in front of them. Moreover, the people of the Blue Fire sect had seen Su Yi with their own eyes. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry wants to impersonate Su Yi. The little bird beside him has the phoenix bloodline, but what is this thing? Could it be a crow? Ha ha ha, that's right. I think it's a crow. Many people in the Blue Fire sect laughed loudly and looked at Su Yi and Su Xiaoshui with mockery. "Xiaoshui, don't be rash." Su Yi held Su Xiaoshui down. Otherwise, this guy would definitely make a move. It was not that Su Yi did not want to deal with these people in front of him, but he had important things to do now, so he had to endure as much as he could. After a long time of comforting, Su Xiaoshui finally calmed down, but his bird eyes were filled with a biting cold murderous aura. Su Yi and Su Xiaoshui remembered this Blue Fire sect. "Brother Fengyun, if a fight breaks out later, take the opportunity to leave quickly." Chapter 1266. Su-yi was not interested in how incompatible the Blue Fire sect and the mysterious Frost sect were. He still did not plan to get involved in this matter. He nodded lightly when he heard Niu Qingshan's words. However, these words also fell into the ears of Chai Jian from the Blue Fire sect. He laughed strangely again and said, "My Blue Fire sect has no time to compete with your mysterious Frost sect. Take this little bastard and get lost." "Get lost, ha 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 ha. And that crow, go somewhere else to pretend." Everyone from the Blue Fire sect laughed loudly as they glanced at Su-yi and the people from the mysterious Frost sect. Gao Tsang clenched his fists tightly as his eyes darkened. The others also looked extremely gloomy. However, they did not act rashly because the Blue Fire sect was powerful, much more powerful than their mysterious Frost sect. There were 5 origin emperors here alone. Once they fought, the mysterious Frost sect would definitely be at a disadvantage. "Let's go!" Elder Gao Tsang's face darkened as he spoke in a deep voice. He was prepared to leave with his people and continue exploring the secret realm. He did not want to be entangled with the Blue Fire sect here. However, before he could turn around, he saw the young man who had been with him for a few days slowly take a step forward and walk towards the Blue Fire sect group. "Little brother Feng Yun." Elder Gao Tsang was shocked and hurriedly shouted. Niu Qingshan was also stunned on the spot as he opened his mouth and called out. However, Su-yi ignored them. He walked to Chai Jian and the others and stopped 3 meters away. He looked coldly at the people from the Blue Fire sect. "What? Little bastard, are you still not convinced?" Among the nearly 20 people from the Blue Fire sect, a young man around 30 years old sneered and asked Su-yi, "I've already given you a chance. I didn't expect you to still be so arrogant. Since that's the case, then pay the price for what you said." Su-yi said faintly. Once again, he took one step at a time towards the people of the Blue Fire clan. As he took a step forward, the origin energy on his body skyrocketed and instantly erupted with the power of the origin void stage. As Su-yi descended step by step, the aura on his body overlapped layer by layer like a flood striking the sky. First level origin void stage, second level origin void stage, third level origin void stage, fourth level origin void stage. Such a scene stunned everyone from the Blue Fire sect and the mysterious Frost sect. No one would have thought that the young man's cultivation was actually at the origin void realm. Moreover, in just a short while, he had the power of an advanced origin void realm expert. What arrogance! So what if you're at the origin void stage? Do you think this place will allow you to jump around? Chai Jian sneered as he looked at Su-yi. The young man's aura was extremely powerful. Even Chai Jian was trembling a little. However, Chai Jian still tried his best to remain calm. After all, he was a high-level origin emperor. No wonder he dared to pretend to be the Bawang sect's sect leader with a crow. So he's already at the origin void stage. Someone from the Blue Fire sect said in shock, but he did not panic. However, when he heard those words, he heard a cursing voice. "You are the crow. Your whole family are crows." The voice came from Handsome Su. He couldn't take it anymore and flew out. His spirit energy spread out, dispersing the black fiendish aura around him. Chi, a bright flame, spewed out from his mouth and instantly rushed towards the people from the Blue Fire sect. A bright red light beam shot out and blasted the person who had just spoken. The speed of the light beam was unbelievably fast. Even the many origin emperors present did not have time to react. Chi, in the blink of an eye, when the flames touched that person's body, it was as if it had burned a withered leaf. It instantly transformed into a ball of bright flames, and then the person's body turned into a pile of ashes and disappeared. All of this happened too quickly, and no one was able to react in time. However, the person who spoke in the end had already been obliterated, and he died completely. Since the Blue Fire sect is so arrogant, then all of you shall stay here. Su Yi's cold voice was also heard at this moment. No one knew when, but he had already held a long sword in his hand. The 13 Gale swords was executed. Streaks of sword light brazenly shot out and swept towards the people from the Blue Fire sect. Caught off guard, 2 young Origin Emperor stage disciples were instantly slashed into pieces by the sword and died a violent death. It was only at this moment that Chai Jian and the other Blue Fire sect powerhouses finally reacted. A small bird that could talk, coupled with the cultivation that the young man displayed, had actually reached the 9th level of the Origin Void stage. It was hard to imagine. "Little bastard, how dare you? I'm going to tear you apart." Chai Jian's eyes immediately turned red and he was furious. Several disciples were killed in succession right under his nose. This caused him to be unable to restrain his anger and he instantly went berserk. A dark green flame sprang out from his body. The blazing heat spread out as if it was going to burn through the sky. "You dare to make a fuss in front of me with just you?" However, the small bird in his eyes spread its wings. With a light flap, an even more terrifying flame surged out and directly enveloped Chai Jian's body. The flame was too terrifying. It bound Chai Jian with an unstoppable force. The blazing aura burned everything in the sky. In an instant, a shrill cry sounded out from within the flame and shot into the sky. Chai Jian's body twisted as he wanted to escape. However, there seemed to be a mighty force within the flame that bound him, causing him to be firmly restrained on the spot. He could only howl miserably. "Noisy!" Su Xiaoshui snorted coldly. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and spat out a crimson-red flame. It was like burning blood, and its might was terrifying and peerless. "Ah!" Chai Jian's shrill cry grew louder. However, it only lasted for less than 2 breaths of time before it suddenly stopped. Under everyone's gazes, the flame slowly retreated. Along with that, Chai Jian's body was like a piece of dry wood that was completely burned, turning into a pile of black ash that slowly fell to the ground. Elder Chai. Everyone from the Blue Fire sect was dumbstruck. All of them stood on the spot in disbelief with their eyes wide open. Elder Chai, who was the strongest amongst them, had actually died just like that. Not even a trace of him was left behind. This was unacceptable. On the other side, Gao Tsang, Niu Qingshan, and the other members of the mysterious Frost sect were all shocked to the extreme. Pseudo New Chapter Section HP, above $. They all saw that the small bird that had always looked unremarkable and even had an evil aura was now awe-inspiring, like a god standing between heaven and earth. In addition, the young man in brocade was also extremely extraordinary. His aura was vigorous, and his killing intent was fierce. He rushed into the crowd of the Blue Fire sect and slashed out several more times. Along with that, the Blue Fire sect disciples fell to the ground. An Origin Emperor Realm Elder of the Blue Fire sect widened his eyes and pointed at Su Yi and the imposing little bird in shock. He said in a trembling voice, "Phoenix. It's that Phoenix." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.